I call this town board meeting to order on April 22nd, 2025 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Good afternoon. For a couple of ground rules, note the fire exits to your right, the restrooms are in the hallway to the right. The agenda is at the entrance, and we'll follow the agenda in the order. The town board welcomes public input at every meeting. Step to the lectern, state your name and address. Meetings are recorded and broadcast online, so please speak clearly. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. Madam Clerk will keep the time and will notify the speaker when the time is up. Personal attacks are not allowed. Address all questions to the board chairman. All speakers must be respectful or their time will be terminated. The public input period is not a discussion and the board will not respond to comments. And just for people at home, during the public hearing, the board can respond to the speaker. Statements made or the speaker's opinion is up to each individual to learn the facts or the truth. Often we'll have presenters, and that's by request by the chairman or the board to educate the town board on a specific topic. The chairman and the board has the right to set the time for those presentations. Madam Clerk, please read the roll.
Supervisor Evans.
Here.
Councilwoman Cunningham. Here. Councilman Malone.
Present.
Councilman Perticone.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Weiner.
Here.
Attorney for the town.
Here.
We have a lot of work to get to. So Madam Clerk, we have 3 public hearings scheduled starting at 7:35. And I understand we have no proclamations or presentations. We'll now have the public input period. Madam Chief, let me see. Let's find out how many people we have scheduled to sign up. Sorry, sign up to speak. Okay, it appears that we have no one signed up for the public input period, so I'm just going to open up one more time. Does anyone have anything for the board? Public input? So everyone here is for the hearing, correct? Thank you. Madam Clerk, financial report. I'm sorry, Madam Comptroller, financial report.
Thank you. The 2025 financial results for the town as of March 31st. The total expenses, actual as well as encumbered, are $9,574,000, or 22.5% of budget, which is below the 25% of the year that has elapsed. The breakdown is actual expenses, $7,700,000, and encumbered expenses, $1,874,000. The general fund expenses are 23.5% of budget, or $6,457,000. The breakdown here is actual expenditures, $5,148,000, and encumbrances, $1,309,000. Included in the encumbrances is the ambulance contract and legal fees. In aggregate, the expenses on the highway funds are $1,574,000, or 26.3% of budget, slightly above the 25% of the year that has elapsed. Actual expenses total $1,068,000, and encumbrances account for $507,000, and include fuel, salt, and equipment parts. Expenditures in the library fund are under budget at $413,000, or 14.2%. The sewer fund expenses are 18.8% of budget, equating to $743,000. Expenses in the stormwater drainage total $118,000, or 12% of budget. The general fund revenues received is $15,315,000, or 55.8% of budget. At the end of March, the town has received $13,011,000 of real estate tax, 100% of budget. 78.1%, or $222,000 of payment in lieu of tax revenue has been received. Regarding the entire town, $27,153,000, or 63.8% of revenue and appropriated fund balance has been received to date. Approximately $19,366,000 of the amount received is real estate tax. At month end, the library has received $2,818,000, or 96.8% of its budgeted revenue. 68.8%, or $4,114,000 of budgeted revenue is in for the highway funds. Consolidated sewer has received $3,807,000, or 96.3% of budget. 98.7% of stormwater drainage receipts have been recorded at $971,000. This concludes the financial report for the month of March 2025.
Thank you, Madam Controller. May I have a motion to adopt the financial report?
I'll move it.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any corrections, questions, or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The financial report is adopted. Madam Clerk, seems like we have some minutes to approve.
Yes, March 3rd, 2025, special town board meeting minutes.
May I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, or revisions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Madam Clerk?
March 10th, 2025, workshop town board meeting minutes.
May I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, or revisions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The minutes are approved. Madam Clerk?
March 18th, 2025, regular town board meeting minutes.
May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, or revisions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, we have some resolutions for board action. Can you please read the first item?
Item number 1, resolution calling for a public hearing on a proposed text amendment to local law, Chapter 192 of the Code of the Town of Arundecoit.
Motion to adopt?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Could I get an explanation?
Yes, thank you. This is in regards to a text amendment to our current local law regarding Arundecoit Town Code, Chapter 192-20A, receptacles, and Chapter 192-22, preparation of receptacles for collection.
Any questions or comments? With that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 2, resolution authorizing the scheduling of a public hearing pertaining to the adoption of the Arundecoit 2025 Community Development Block Grant Program.
Motion to adopt?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Thank you. This resolution will call a public hearing at next month's town board meeting on May 20th for input regarding the upcoming 2025 to 2026 program year for the Community Development Block Grant. The town has not received its allocation yet this year. We have estimates based on the current year allocation. The program is expected to fund the same programs that were funded in the previous year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Just thank you to Ms. Marsh for all of your work on this, and I am hoping that the funding comes through because we have a lot of people that we can serve through our town through these grants.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item number 3, authorizing a contract for scanning and shredding Arundecoit Court documents and files with e-biz docs.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
May I have an explanation?
Thank you. As I explained to the board at the workshop, the court was granted $28,700 from the Justice Court Fund. And in order to have the files scanned and shredded, we need to enter into a contract with a company called eBiz Docs. And so we're asking the court to approve that contract.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk.
Item number 4, authorizing a contract for scanning and shredding Arundecoit Court documents and files with ICC-CDS.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Thank you. This resolution is also for the JCAP grant. The company ICC.CDS is a company that actually manages the files in the cloud once they are scanned and shredded. And so we have to have 2 different companies, one to do the actual physical work and then the other company to manage the documents in the cloud.
Thank you very much. Motion to adopt. I'm sorry. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk.
Item number 5, authorizing tuition reimbursement for an employee.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Thank you. Investigator Soprano has expressed interest in completing his criminal justice degree, his bachelor's degree. The agreement between the town and the Nightstick Club allows for a 50% reimbursement rate upon successful completion of the course. So this would just formalize that and allow him to register for the course.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item number 6, authorizing the attendance to the New York State 2025 Child Passenger Safety Technical Conference.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Yes, this is for our crime prevention officer to attend the New York State 2025 Child Passenger Safety Technical Conference in Lake Placid, New York. Hotel, lodging, everything is included because he is a certified safety technician for car seats. And so it just needs to be okayed for him to attend the conference.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk.
Item number 7, authorizing the attendance to Inside the Tape Homicide Investigation and Criminal Scene Management Training Certification.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Yes, this is for 3 of our crime scene technicians to attend the training that's being hosted by the Rochester Police Department and Inside the Tape homicide investigation training. It'll be, I think, a 3-day training. And obviously, it's all geared towards homicide investigations and critical skills that are needed by our technicians.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. Chief, is that locally done here?
Yes, yeah, it's going to be here at the training academy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk.
Item number 8, declaring salvage of police interceptor.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Yes, this is to declare salvage one of our police vehicles that was totaled. and we just need that so that we can get the salvage money for it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 9, authorizing the supervisor to enter into First Amendment agreement with Asset Management System software for street lighting.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
May I have an explanation?
Yes, thank you. This resolution would authorize the extension of our agreement for the streetlight maintenance throughout town with the New York Power Association company that brings in a contractor that maintains both routine and non-routine maintenance throughout the streetlights in town.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 10, calling for a public hearing to amend Article 7 of Chapter 222 of the Code of Town of Arundecoit relating to installation of no stopping signs.
Motion to adopt.
Move.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Yes, thank you. This would call for the public hearing next month to potentially install the no stopping signs on Lakeshore Boulevard. This is in relation to the Eagle's Nest that is on Lakeshore Boulevard that is causing some people to stop and take a look. So we would schedule the public hearing next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 11, authorizing a contract with referees for Spring 2025 Women's Soccer League.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
May I have an explanation?
Yes, thank you. This will allow us to secure our contract for our women's spring and fall adult soccer programs for referees at McAvoy Park.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 12, authorizing the supervisor to amend and enter various contracts with vendors for youth, family, and senior recreational programming for 2025.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Yes, thank you. We are looking to bring in a new instructor for our group exercise programming. We are working with a wonderful woman who is going to bring some more high-intensity programming in, such as kickboxing. So this will just allow us to amend our previous resolution and add her to our list of group exercise instructors.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 13, authorizing the acceptance of a gift of fitness equipment.
Motion to adopt.
Move.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Yes, thank you. Mike Nolan from I-Square reached out to us and said that he had some stationary and recumbent spin bikes that he was looking to donate. We took a look at the equipment, and it's very nice equipment that we think will add a lot of value to our fitness center. So this resolution will allow us to receive that donation.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just going to thank Mr. Nolan
Yes.
for this gift.
I was going to thank him also.
I've seen the equipment myself. It's like brand new. I want to thank the Nolans for the contribution, definitely.
Yes, thank you. We're very lucky.
So I think that goes for all of us up here. Seeing no other questions or comments, and thank you, Ms. Nolan, again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 14, approving a request by Swans Market for Farmers Market Oktoberfest event.
Motion to adopt?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
May I have an explanation?
Yes, thank you. Our Oktoberfest-themed farmers market takes place each September. We work with Swan's Market as they handle the alcohol permit as we do sell beer for this particular market only. So this contract will allow us to move forward with Swan's so that they can start securing the permits and everything they need for that event.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Item number 15, authorizing a special event license for the Arundecoit Little League.
Motion to adopt.
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second?
May I have an explanation?
So this is their annual opening day parade to be held on May 3rd, 2025, and all approvals are in.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I do have a question for clarification. Where is this parade held?
It's held out here at the gazebo, and they walk to the fields.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Down Titus, up Kings.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The resolution is adopted.
You do it now?
Yes, we have a 16.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda.
Madam Clerk?
We have a walk-in resolution, item number 16. A resolution, second resolution, censuring Town Supervisor Andre Evans.
Thank you.
Well, the chair has not given you the floor yet, please.
Can we move this along, please?
The chair has not given you the floor. Okay, the chair will allow the town council Wayner to speak.
Do we need to? Do we need a motion, though, first?
So you're going to amend the agenda?
Yes,
Motion to amend the agenda?
correct.
Motion to amend the agenda.
I'll move it.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wayner?
Thank you. We have a resolution in front of us here tonight that for consideration to amend a second resolution to censuring the town supervisor. I'm going to read this into the record. Apologize if it's a bit lengthy, but deputy supervisor in the town board.
May I have a point of order? The point you presented to the record, summarize it. I don't think we need to read the whole thing. Just make your points.
No, I think we
as
need
you
to
can.
read it, thank you. We're going
No,
to read
it
it,
doesn't need
thank
to
you.
be the whole thing.
We're going,
Make your points and just add it in.
An appeal of the ruling of the chair?
yes,
It's an
I
appeal
would
the
like
ruling
to.
of the chair. The Roberts rule allow me to say, summarize it. In other words, I'll summarize it.
And I would like
The
to.
town board
I would
is
like to.
censoring me for, I am talking. The town board is censoring me for a second time for not completing training. So that's the sense of the resolution. I am going to allow it. If you want to read the resolution.
According to Robert's rules, appealing the
If you
chair's
wanna-
decision
if
is
you wanna read the
interruptible.
resolution, the public is allowed to read it on their own. I'm going to move to a vote. All in favor?
No, read the entire resolution, please.
There's an appeal of the decision of the chair.
Yes.
That should be voted on first. That's
Thank you.
There's an appeal to the decision of the chair to which I don't think is correct, but I'll allow it to read the whole thing into record. I think at some point, these shenanigans have to stop and justice have to be prevailed, but go ahead.
Yes, they do.
They
Thank
do.
you.
We need justice. You're
Yes,
correct.
Yes, we need the
Right.
shenanigans to finish. Thank you.
Transparency.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. So whereas the town board of the town of Arundecoit, there known as the town board, has a fundamental interest in ensuring the general welfare of citizens of the town and instilling and promoting confidence of the residents of the town of Arundecoit, here known as the town, the general public in the orderly and principled operation of town government and the conduct of its affairs as per Arundecoit Town Code 40-13. And whereas the town is committed to maintaining a workplace free from harassment and retaliation, the town's board's actions reflect its dedication to addressing these serious issues and ensuring a safe environment for all employees. And whereas the town board issued a written reprimand addressed to the town supervisor on January 14th, 2025, also known as the reprimand, and whereas the reprimand required the town supervisor to complete comprehensive management training on sexual harassment, workplace boundaries, and appropriate professional conduct with a focus on how his behavior impacts others, here known as the mandated training. And whereas the town board passed a resolution on February 20th, 2025, censuring the town supervisor, Andre Evans, the town supervisor, in connection with allegations of sexual harassment and retaliation that were substantiated by the independent investigation conducted by Nearpass and Kogel, PLLC, here known as the censure resolution. And whereas the censure resolution again required the town supervisor to complete the mandated training, and whereas the town supervisor has failed and refused to complete the mandated training, in spite of the fact that the town's director of human resources made arrangements for the town supervisor to complete the mandated training, and whereas the censure resolution also directed the town supervisor to cease all conduct that could be perceived as inappropriate, discriminatory, or retaliatory, and whereas Section 36 of Public Officers Law permits the district attorney to seek the removal of elected officials for any misconduct, maladministration, malfeasance, or malversation in office. And whereas, following her own investigation into allegations made against the town supervisor, the Monroe County District Attorney filed a petition together with supporting exhibits seeking the removal of the town supervisor pursuant to Section 36 of the Public Officers Law. The petition and annex exhibits collectively referred to herein as the removal petition. And whereas the removal petition included additional allegations of retaliation by the town supervisor against town staff, and whereas the town board acknowledges its ongoing responsibility to maintain a safe and respectful environment for all employees and is committed to taking necessary remedial actions to address the findings of this investigation, and whereas the town is dedicated to fostering an environment where all employees feel valued and protected, and the town board recognizes the importance of addressing these issues promptly and effectively, the town board is committed to transparency and accountability. And whereas the town board believes it appropriate and necessary to remind the town supervisor of his obligations to refrain from further actions that could be viewed as unlawful harassment or retaliation. And whereas the town board continues to believe that it is in the best interest of the town, its employees, and residents, and that the town supervisor resign. However, he has refused to do so. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby supplements the censure resolution as follows. 1. The town supervisor is again directed to complete the comprehensive management training on sexual harassment, workplace boundaries, and appropriate professional conduct with a focus on how the town supervisor's behavior impacts others. This training shall be conducted by a qualified external provider with experience in these matters to be determined and arranged by the town, but paid for by the town supervisor. This training shall be scheduled at the earliest opportunity. It must be completed within 30 days of this resolution. 2. The town supervisor is directed to cease all conduct that could be perceived as inappropriate, discriminatory, or retaliatory. And 3. These provisions of the censure resolution are affirmed and shall continue until further action of the town board. And this resolution shall take effect immediately upon adoption.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I have one for public information. I was referred for criminal charges. There has been no criminal charges filed. So Sandra Dorley, DA, has moved to a very rare law, 36, to remove me. So that's where we at. So all in favor, say aye.
We need a
We
motion.
we didn't move it.
Motion to adopt.
Moved?
May I have a second?
Second.
We have the explanation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk, next item.
That is it for the resolutions. We just need to wait until 7:35 for the public hearings.
Okay, we're going to have a quick recess until 7:35. Motion to open public hearing.
I'll move it.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? The hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, can you read the matter before us?
Item number 1, 7:35, public hearing on the matter of a special use permit to construct 6 duplex garage units on premises 5324, 5334, 5340 St. Paul Boulevard and 8 Second Street in the C Business District.
Madam Clerk, do you have any written things that you want to add into this?
We have received several correspondence that all board members have received from 5284 St. Paul Boulevard, and we also received a statement from over 53 residents in the Somerville area.
May I have an explanation of this public hearing, please?
Yes, thank you. This is in regards to granting of a special use permit to construct 6 units totaling 3 structures with garages on premises 5324, 5334, 5340 St. Paul Boulevard, and 8 Second Street in the C Business District. The applicant and his agent are here. If you'd like to hear a brief presentation.
Please. Please.
Good evening, town board members. My name is John Sharaba with Land Tech, representing the applicant tonight. The applicant, Mr. Salteri, is here as well, can answer any questions that I cannot. I know the board heard our presentation briefly at the workshop last month, but I'll kind of go over it again. This is a 4-parcel property located at the north side of St. Paul between 2nd Street and Somerville Drive. It's one of the parcels is a former Anchor Inn restaurant, you may remember. What we're proposing is redevelopment of this corner. Several opportunities have been in the past to operate in a commercial manner here, and it has not worked out very well. So the owner would like to do a residential development. This would be 3 buildings. The buildings range from 2,100 square feet to 2,400 square feet in size. They will have 2 units per building. Each of the units will be 3 bedrooms. There will be no basements on these lots. We are going to reconfigure the 4 tax parcels that currently exist here to 3 tax parcels, and making application hopefully to the zoning board. You can imagine lots down in Somerville are very small, so any redevelopment is going to require a few area variances, which we've noted in our application. If we're fortunate to get the variances, we're going to move on to the planning board, where we can speak in more detail to site plan issues, grading, landscaping, lighting, parking, things like that. And we're requesting site plan approval and subdivision approval for this project. But our first step was with this board tonight, asking for a special permit to allow us to move forward for a C zoning district. We feel that this is a less intensive use than what could have been there. Obviously, there could have been restaurants, there could be banks, barbershops, anything in a C commercial area could be built on this site. We feel that this residential use is in the character of the neighborhood. It's also in the character of the comprehensive plan of the town of Runnequoit that's requesting unique housing styles. We feel that this project fits in with those guidelines, and we hope that the town board agrees and gives us a special permit to move forward through the rest of the approval process.
Thank you. We will now accept public comments. The first person who is scheduled to sign, and forgive me if I mess up your name, Katha Patterson.
Thank you. I've addressed you at previous hearings. This is not
Please state your name and address for the record.
Katha Pattison, and it's 151 Lakefront, which is the last house on Somerville Drive. Most days, parking is unbelievable. There's no way an ambulance or a fire truck, let alone the garbage truck, has a hard time getting down Somerville Drive. They're building a garage for these duplexes. It's not going to be a duplex garage. It's not going to be enough. If there's 3 people in a house, there's 3 cars. Just tonight to come up here, because Fifth Frame is down at 3rd Street, the cars were parked all the way past Somerville. There's no parking, even if you're out on the boulevard, let alone if winter were here and you have the snowbanks and you have problems. Plus, I can't believe this board would even consider, without a sewer project, we have sewage problems all the time because it's got to go uphill from Somerville. There is always problems with garbage. There is always problems with too many people in too small a space. But all the people in Somerville are very nice and very get along, especially in our neighborhood. But they will have no beach rights, and I don't know if this developer is going to explain that to them. There is no way they can get to the beach unless they walk down to the curve on St. Paul Boulevard. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Patterson?
He doesn't want to speak.
Okay. Katie?
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Katie Ferruza. I'm a resident of 119 Lakefront, which is literally just 2 houses from where this development is proposed at the end of 2nd Street. I just want to reiterate some of Katha's concerns. We have major issues with safety in terms of a fire truck or garbage truck or anything getting down our really tiny streets. There's literally no shoulder, there's nowhere to park. From what I can see from the plan, there are garages, but as Katha stated, there doesn't seem to be any other areas to park if you have more than 1 vehicle or a visitor. I think it's just concerning that there's this many units that could hold this many people and this many cars, and what that would mean in terms of the parking on St. Paul Boulevard, as well as these side streets. I really think that needs to have a good hard look at what that would mean for our neighborhood. I would imagine it would be a lot of calls to the IPD about, blocking things and stuff like that. Additionally, I think what Katha mentioned, the sewage and drainage concerns, were literally in a floodplain, at least where we are. We have a lot of issues with sewage, water, drainage, things like that. I can just imagine adding this many people that are living in that small area. I just think the town really needs to think hard about what that would mean in terms of the sewage and whether that there's capacity for that. It's also unclear to me in terms of whether these will be rental units and what the stipulations will be in terms of rentals. Will you allow, I know that's going to come up later this evening, but like short-term rentals, Airbnbs, and just what that would mean in terms of the neighborhood and character, because that's been unclear to me so far in the plan. I think Nancy may be speaking to, but I just want to reiterate that we have had a petition go around the neighborhood that more than 50 residents have signed. So there is a great deal of concern around this just overall. So I think those are the main points that I wanted to make tonight that I hope you will consider. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kathy, I'm going to ask the Mr. Attorney to explain the Airbnb law that we just passed, just to address one of your comments.
Yeah, so I don't recall if that was actually passed or not.
It was not.
I think that's in process. Yeah, it's in process, but that would prohibit short-term rentals if it's adopted. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jürgen Grans.
Oh,
Do we have a portable mic?
Yeah, let's.
oh, that would be great.
Can we bring up one of the portable mics, please?
Yeah, hold on. We're gonna give you a mic so you don't have to.
I don't know. Chief's got it.
No,
Yep.
Chief's got it. It's
Yep.
okay. It's okay.
Coming.
Coming up from the back.
Well, he's not waiting.
Oh, there you go, sir.
Oh,
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I keep it short, I promise. I live at, my name is Jürgen Grans. I live at 137 to 139 Lakefront. You know, and I just want to know, is that a possibility that the units will be rented as a subsidized housing? You know, we are definitely against it. I lived there for 45 years, and subsidized housing, we had so many problems with that. Right now, it's very quiet for a change there, but we want to keep it quiet. We don't want to go out and listen to this again with subsidized housing. You know, they were smashing windows, fighting each other, and gunshots, and you go to the police and get the police reports on subsidized housing in that area. So now we had, in 45 years, we had a Somerville Lakefront Association formed, you know, and we had a lawyer and this and that. And because so many people think they can go to the beach, and there's no access to the beach, no deeded access, deeded rights to anyway. There used to be, for 174 houses, deeded beach rights through the division of Harbor Square. It used to be Harbor Square, now it's called Westridge. But Mr. Spezio, the builder, built the garages right onto this that sidewalk to the beach, and nobody complained. And now they lost all the deeded beach rights, those houses. So, and I imagine if there are 6 doubles, so 12 units, half of them probably have dogs. They want to go to the beach, and as private property is not allowed. We call the police immediately. So I just like to know if you get renters which pay the rent, no subsidized housing, and are the places for sale also, or just for rent? Yeah, I keep it short here. The next person, please.
Thank you. Mrs. Schraber, please answer the question.
You want me to go through each one?
His questions, yes.
Here, I'm gonna scoot back.
I appreciate Mr. Ergen's questions. First thing he asked about is subsidized housing. This will not be subsidized. We're not asking for a pilot or commuta. Construction these days is very expensive, so you can't pay those rates. So the average rent that we're proposing is somewhere between $1,800 and $2,100 per month per unit. I think there is some confusion on the petition that went around for the public. There are only 3 buildings. There are only 6 units. I heard 12 units numerous times, and that is not the case. Only 6 units. Beach rights. We have no problem writing into the lease. If there are no beach rights to our property, we will put that in the lease agreement with the tenants. For sale, these are not for sale. They are going to be in individual properties that this is a business model that Sal is working on. Not to say they're not going to be for sale in the future. Again, there's 4 tax parcels now. It's going to go to 3 tax parcels with 1 duplex on each lot. They're all going to be owned by Mr. Salteri, but who knows what the future is. He may sell them all holistically at one time or individually in the future, but there's no plans to sell those. I do have other comments. I've taken notes, Mr. Supervisor, if you want me to wait till the end or go through each individual
I just want
person.
you to address Mr. Jurgen's immediate questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stefan Grantz?
Hi, sorry. I'm going to keep it a little shorter than my dad, I hope. But, so me personally, I'm mostly concerned
Please
about
state your name and,
I'm sorry.
and your address.
My name is Stefan Grans. I live at 139 Lakefront with my father. We've lived there my entire life. I mean, I've come back, but the parking is, everyone's emphasized it, but it is really to the point where these houses don't have parking and neither do these. So there'll be cars lined, and there's just enough room for my car to go through those. And that's not in the winter. So, I mean, the idea that there's garages and everything, awesome. You know, as long as it's covered, I'm happy. But the guests and the additional people, that is a concern. I think that the beach rights, it's mostly about liability and people walking through our property than anything. There used to be, you know, parties and people leave trash all over the beach, and then it's my responsibility to clean it. So that sucks. Other than that, it's a nice neighborhood. Like, we know they're going to do something with that lot. I knew it wasn't going to stay commercial forever. They've tried many businesses there. It makes sense that they would, you know, change things. But I would definitely emphasize the parking, like, a lot, because there's literally nowhere to add a single car on our little dead end. And so that would leave it onto the boulevard, which, when the bars are open, are full to begin with. So that's my main concern is, like, I can, as it is, barely get my car out, and especially in the winter when there's those snowbanks and everything, that becomes a real issue. So thank you guys for your time.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So I'm trying to understand, how does this development affect the existing parking? You're saying, I mean, you say that you can't get out of the street now based on the current parking for the current residents there. Your supposition is that this development would...
Our dead end is here. The development and everything's right at the end.
Is this parcel currently used for parking for the residents there?
No. Currently, it's just an empty lot, but there is a large parking facility there where there used to be the Anchor Inn and then the clubhouse and whatever.
If the developer's intention is to park the cars for these buildings on their own property, does that make the parking in the neighborhood worse?
Well, it's more about the number of people in the neighborhood to begin with. Like, if you have friends over and all of your parking is full, they're going to park wherever to just come hang out. And then it becomes an issue. I think, you know, emphasizing that it's 6 versus 12 units was a good point, because not all of us knew that. So I'm a little less concerned, but it still becomes an issue just because it's like the dead end. But as long as there is enough parking on site, that'd be great. You know, so it's just mostly that, like, as it is, the houses on our street don't have parking lots. They don't have anywhere to park to begin with. I had initially said, like, hey man, if you wanted to turn it into a parking lot, people in the neighborhood would pay for parking, because they literally have nowhere to park. I mean, I was kind of kidding, but it is an issue to take into consideration, you know. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't obviously seen the plans. I don't know, but I think that everyone's bringing it up just because of the capacity of people in the neighborhood. There's nowhere for my friends to park, you know. Like, we have a couple parking spots, and if Katha has a party, she has to have her guests park in my driveway, because there's nowhere for anyone to park. So that's really the thing, is it's like, it's not about the garages holding who lives there. It's anyone additional that comes to visit. Then where are they going to park? Is it going to be on the boulevard where the bar parking already is? It's an issue in the entire area parking. So that's why people keep bringing it up. All right, but thank you.
Do you mind if I elaborate a little bit on parking? Yes, please. So we understand that it's a tight area down there in Somerville. So our plan, in the current form, we have a single car garage, and it's set back enough so that
a single car garage for
each unit. Yep. So, and then it's set back enough so you could park another car in front of it. So no part of the car is over the sidewalk or gutter in this situation. So on St. Paul, it's back enough so they don't cross the sidewalk. On the two side streets, 2nd Street and Somerville Drive, it's set back enough so a car is not going to be into the public traveled way. So that's the plan.
So in essence, each unit has 2 parking stalls,
unit has
one in a garage and one in a driveway.
So each building has 4 spots. And and looking into visitor parking, hopefully if we get to the planning board level, we hear what's going on. I take very detailed notes. I know this board knows how I do my work. We want to help the neighborhood. We're not trying to hinder it. So if we get fortunate enough to go to the planning board, I'll work in those areas. It's kind of balancing, lot coverage to additional parking. What does the planning board want? Do they want more landscaping or more pavement? And we're willing to work through those issues with the planning board, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill James?
Bill James, 5359 St. Paul Boulevard. They pretty much said everything I was going to say. The only thing that is not specific is there's no parking on St. Paul Boulevard on the south side. There's signs that say you can't park there. So that's half St. Paul is gone. And 6 months out of the year, you can't park on St. Paul Street at all because it's a snow route. So as far as parking at St. Paul Boulevard, that's pretty well a no-brainer. If you stand in front of that property and you start pointing, you can point at 10 rentals that are there, 10 rental properties. And most of them, they're transient. And some of them stay for a couple years, some of them, no. And just for an example, what kind of people that were there, you got a notice from the police department saying that there's a Class 3 pedophile living in one of the rentals over there. I don't want to deal with that. And I'm sure what he's talking about, how much rent is going to be, maybe we won't have that problem. But I'm all for developing the property, like the other guy said, but without a special permit. Use the code. Put something in there that deals with the code of the area. And that's about it. And it was, I don't know if it was said or not, but last year they tried to put something in there, and 57 different families signed a petition not to have a special use permit for this property. Most people are old, and a lot of them are passing away now, but right as it stands, no one wants it. So thanks a lot, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this topic? For, against, any comments? Please, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Nancy Griffin, and I live at 15 2nd Street. And I have problems with it. Number one of the entrances and exit, one goes on to 2nd Street and one goes on to Somerville Street. It's ridiculous to get any more traffic on those two streets. Why they can't go out onto St. Paul is beyond me. And I still think that there is too much building on too little a space. That's a small lot to be putting big construction and paving and that. He's already cut down every tree and shrub on the property, so there's no landscaping. And, okay, what else I got? Most of the property is covered with buildings or paving. And that causes a problem with the runoff of water for the storm sewers. And we had the big flood a few years back. The storm sewers took the water for 4 of us. The other one, Katie's, her husband ran his out towards the lake because he tried to hook it up to the storm sewer and it flooded the whole street. It was upriver. And so putting more paving and more buildings on a small lot just doesn't go with the neighborhood. If he wanted to go in there and put 3 small single-story 2-bedroom houses on there right across St. Paul, the curbs are already cut. So you don't have to have cut the curbs. That would be more appropriate with proper landscaping and proper setbacks. That would go with the neighborhood. And so, I don't know. I handed in a list from the last time when they were proposing the 10 units. And basically, the complaint is about the same, only not quite as severe. So, I think the whole neighborhood is against this. Everyone I talk to is. So, thank you, and I hope
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
stop them.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I will now take a motion to close this public hearing. May I have a motion?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The hearing is now closed. Madam Clerk, it appears there are resolutions for the town board action.
Resolution regarding State Environmental Quality Review Act compliance regarding special use permits for the redevelopment of 5324, 5334, 5340 St. Paul Boulevard and 8 Second Street in the C Business District.
May I have a motion?
Moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second it.
May I have an explanation?
Thank you. This is in regards to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. I believe, excuse me, the boards have received parts 2 and 3 of the short environmental assessment form. Staff wishes to recommend that this be a negative declaration as an unlisted action regarding the New York State seeker requirements.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I did have a question, and this may be a question of the engineer, but has there been a sewer capacity study down there?
Nothing that we've done. I spoke briefly during the conceptual review phase at DRC with the Department of Public Works. Nothing was indicated.
And that would be dealt with at the planning board level?
Yeah, I believe so. And then we are going to look at stormwater too. I know that, this is under the threshold for a DEC stormwater permit, but we want to try to do something. That's why we have a little more green space than parking, so we can have the ability to do some.
The other question I wanted to close the loop on, somebody had mentioned that this is within a floodplain?
It is not. I mean, everything's in a floodplain, but it's outside. It's in the 100-year floodplain, like 2%. It's not along the lake. It's not it's in the AE zone.
Okay, thank you.
And for those at home, can you explain what an AE zone is?
It's outside the 100-year floodplain. So if you're up near on the water where we pay in flood insurance, and I might have that reversed, excuse me. I misspoke. It's a zone X. That means we're outside of it. AE is you're within the flood zone. The Lake Ontario has a flood zone elevation of 251. And the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA study that. After recent events from 2 years ago, they modified their maps and they look at it very closely. So we'll have to meet any requirements that is needed from them as well at the planning process.
Thank you very much. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The resolution is adopted. Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2, approving special use permits for 5324, 5334, 5340 St. Paul Boulevard and 8 Second Street.
May I have a motion to adopt?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have an explanation?
Thank you, board members. This is in regards to the approval of the special use permits for the proposed addresses on St. Paul and Somerville. Second Street.
Any discussions or questions? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Nay.
Wait. I do
Yeah,
have some questions. Hold on. I'm going to make some comments. First, I'd appreciate everyone that came here to speak in regards to this project. I certainly think many of your concerns are probably more addressed in the planning board review. I do think, I've heard things like parking, landscaping, sewer capacity, all of these issues would be discussed at a planning board. I generally feel like a residential use is a less impact than a commercial use would be in that area. And I'm certainly appreciative of the fact that parking is an issue within that area. And I think in general, parking for a new development would be dealt with within its own parcel. So it shouldn't be impacting the side streets like you're talking. I know if people come and visit or there's a party or things like that and people have to work much like any neighborhood or use public parking or street parking, and I'm sure, the owners of this parcel would be willing to work with you in some way. And I agree that by attestation by the engineer here tonight that, maybe they can look at increasing some parking capacity on the sites to have some visitor parking. I know a lot of times people would rather have green space than impervious area like parking, but if that's something that the residents and the area wish, that'd certainly be something that could be discussed at the planning board level to increase parking capacity on those sites. But I do feel in general, I understand the concerns about rental properties, but residential uses are probably a lower impact than a commercial use in this case, and that would be my consideration as it relates to this. But again, I would encourage people to go to the planning board where you can affect this development and speak with the developer and the planning board and get your concerns across about these type of issues that you brought up tonight.
Thank you for that perspective, especially from someone who served for many years on the planning board too. So thank you.
Well, I would believe that the planning board does have a lot of work cut out for them. I understand the issue, the parking is an issue. John, the biggest thing is the sewer issue as well too. I think that's going to have to be addressed. And when it comes to the garage and the driveway, there's no guarantees they're not going to use that garage for storage, right? But we hope that most of those people, the owner would make sure that they use that for a garage for a car as opposed to storage, because I know a lot of houses around use their garages for storage. So I would hope that would be something that people who live there would take that into consideration. But the density doesn't really concern me as much, but I do understand if people do have visitors. But the planning board has a lot of work to do, I believe, in this project, and they should take consideration to the residents down there and work with them. That's what I'm looking at. Sometimes I wish this comes to us after that fact.
Right.
That the development's already done, and then we can look at it. It's a lot easier that way, because I don't know really what the final outcome's going to be. I have no idea what it's going to look like when the planning board and John and his team and the neighbors get involved in it. But I wish I would, but we won't know that till it's done.
And I think the planning board is generally very responsive to neighbors' needs and neighbors' input. And I think it's a dialogue that can be opened.
Right. I agree. I think it's all parties coming together for the benefit of everyone. It's a difficult situation, and we're in a difficult situation. And to John's point, I think it is very difficult to make this decision not knowing what's going to come ahead. But I do know that the planning board has been very responsive, and we will be watching as well.
Okay, ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted.
I have a
Thank you very much.
question on how do we know when the planning board's going to meet?
Bill or Michelle, do you have when the planning board hearings are going?
Once the applicant and the agent prepare their planning board application, they will submit it to the town, and you'll receive the postcards as well.
Okay, if I wanted to talk to the planning board, is there a meeting that?
Nothing has been scheduled yet. They have not submitted an application. This is the first step of the process, excuse me, is obtaining the special use permit. Then they would need to obtain the area variances required to develop the site, and then site plan approval, which is before the planning board.
Don't want to miss having input into
Nope, you'll see the public hearing signs go back up once they submit an application, because those public hearing signs need to be posted 10 days prior to the actual public hearing.
And the residents in the area get a postcard notifying them of this.
And a postcard will be sent out as well, yes, correct.
And I'm sure you all will be talking together.
Don't worry.
I don't blame you.
Madam Clerk, can you please read the second hearing?
On the matter of proposed local law to amend Town Code Chapter 235 regarding short-term rentals.
May I have a motion?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The hearing is now open. Please provide an explanation.
Yes, thank you. This is the draft language that was developed after much discussion with the town board relative to short-term rentals and the outright banning, basically, of short-term rentals in the town of Arundecoy.
Does he have it?
Okay, we will now accept public comments. Do we have anyone, actually? The first person signed up to speak is Janine Tantello.
Oh, did you want other,
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry,
other public comments?
she's had, yeah, she has something to read in.
correction, Mr. Tantello, 1 second. Please read the
So there was some correspondence. All board members have received the correspondence from 124 Pine Hill Drive.
Can you summarize what the correspondence says?
The correspondence will be read, or will be at the record. It's just against the short-term rentals.
Thank you. Ms. Tantello?
Hi, Janine Tantello, 5224 St. Paul Boulevard. I have a question before we start. Is this already been decided? I was not.
No.
Oh, okay,
No.
okay, I just misunderstood that.
No.
Okay, I wanted to speak on behalf of short-term rentals. I am a host. I have been for 4 years in Arundecoy of an Airbnb. I have not had any problems. When I first started, I reached out to the town because I wanted to know, what do I need to do? Do I need to register it? You know, what are the requirements for starting one? And I was told there aren't any. So I was really surprised, but so I went ahead, but I didn't want problems with it, so I set it up very carefully, and I just think that I want to offer a different narrative than what a lot of people are hearing. It is not like a free-for-all party scene. At least mine is not, and I know several others that are not. It's, I've hosted over 200 people in 4 years, and honestly, it's a really respectful group of people, and I have a hard time understanding why they get out of control, because if a host isn't providing a good place to be, they're not going to get renters. And if guests are coming and causing problems and trashing places, they're not going to be able to use it for long. There's a mutual review between hosts and guests that's public, that other people can see. And if you come in and you do things you shouldn't be doing, whoever rented it to you can put that out and no one else is gonna rent to you. I mean, that's just the way it works. So I'm not saying that things can't happen and haven't happened, because I've heard people come up and talk about different situations that sound pretty bad. But I think it's avoidable. I think it has been avoidable. I think if there were some guidelines and rules in place from the beginning, because it's not really a new thing. It's been around for a while. If it was addressed and, you know, rules were put into place for people to follow that wanted to run one of these, you would avoid all the problems. I mean, yes, you know, there's quiet times. There's only 2 cars in the driveway. There's no on-street parking. There's no parties. There's no gatherings. I tell people this. I check in with them. Did you read my rules? If they have, they don't break them. I mean, it's like I said, it's not everyone really totally understands it. I've used it to travel around the whole country. I've used it overseas. It's there's a reason why it's popular. It provides a service, and in Arundecoy, I think we need that service to some extent. I'm not saying there should be unlimited and they should run wild, but I knew that was gonna happen. Anyway, I've given the town, I've written to the whole town board and with some suggestions that I think could be very helpful if you want to revise how they're done. I've hosted to people that work for the town, people that work for the fire department, school teachers, neighbors, families, people coming because their kids are in college. There's a lot of local ties to this. Most of the people who rent from me stay at the Airbnb because they're here, because they have a tie to Arundecoit. And I would be happy to share any more information with any of you, because the worst thing that's happened in 4 years is some towels went missing. I think they took them to the beach and they didn't come back. I mean, like, that's it. And it's from communication and doing it right. It can be done right.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
What's that?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any questions for the speaker?
I have a question, if you don't mind. Ginny, correct? Just so I'm clear, do you live on the premises, or how close a proximity do you live to this Airbnb location?
I live 2 blocks away.
Okay.
It's a cottage, so I don't live on the premises.
Okay.
But I check on it. I'm the one who cleans it. I keep tabs on it.
Okay.
I bring the garbage in and out. I converse with all my people. There's a couple of ways you can do it. You can do auto booking. I don't do that. I want to have a conversation. Like, did you read my rules? You good with them? I look at their reviews that they've had in the past. So, it's work. It's a job. I mean,
Sure.
if you're going to do it right, it's work.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy Howdo?
Mr. Supervisor, while she makes her way up, just a point of clarity, the letter that was entered into record to the clerk's office, that person owns an Airbnb and they spoke in favor of it.
Sorry.
It was a former resident that now lives in Atlanta that kept the property.
Thank you for that clarification.
Hi, Tammy Haldo, 39 Schnackle. I've been coming here complaining about these for 24 months now. There's been a moratorium for 18 months, and I'm glad to see that it's coming to a head and that you guys are voting on it. To what she said, that there's not a problem between the hosts and the guests, that might be. But the problem is with the neighbors. No one's taking the neighbors into consideration, and when the poll was done, over 65% of the people who voted said it impacts our neighborhoods and we don't want it. With that being said, since they have had 18 months after you guys vote, I think that has been plenty of time for them to get their ducks in a row, and I think it should go into immediate effect, whether it's yes or no. I don't think that they need a grace period of 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. I think it should be immediate. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Complaint for a specific.
Ma'am, if you're ready to sign up to speak, you can.
I just have a question. You can come.
You can come up for it. Well, but after we finish with the list, please come forward and present your question. Dorbert Petronsky? Is that correct? Or Robert Petronsky? I'm not going to talk to him. Okay. Marsha Enright?
Marsha Enright, 75 Clay Avenue. I hope all the owners of these realize that as of Sunday, they have to be registered with the Department of State and have their registration number to be able to rent them out. However, I have read you currently what you are proposing. However, the current code, 235-8 Part C, says from the beginning of time, no hotels, no boarding houses in residential areas. The amendment you've proposed to that code stated except for hotels and motels. New York State Bill 885C, Section 9, passed on December 24th, says all short-term rentals are hotels. To leave the words "except for hotels and motels" almost sounds counterproductive from the goal you're trying to achieve, which is not to allow them. It may also lead to misunderstandings and litigation for the town or these people. Nobody wants that litigation. I do. I've been here for 2 years, almost to the point I'm using it as my return address. I hope not to have to come back.
Thank you. Any questions for? Okay. Next speaker, Mark Haldo.
Hello, my name's Mark Haldo. I live at 39 Schnackle Drive. To answer some of the things that the First Lady was saying, yes, between the guests and the hosts, yeah, a lot of times it's great. But when a neighbor has a complaint, if the host doesn't want to handle that, it doesn't get handled. Or you try to call the police department if it's something that's worse than a regular, complaint. We've had numerous parties and things like that. Well, if the host isn't going to rectify the situation, yeah, they're going to get a good review, that they were great guests, you were a great host because we got to party, we got to be loud, we got to do all that stuff. So yes, that just perpetuates the short-term rental. We have more parties and more gatherings than we have just regular, families come from out of town just to stay, see other family, and that's the other problem. They do have contact with people here in Irondequoit. Well, we live on the water. Would you rather meet your whole family by the water, or would you rather meet them up on, St. Paul Boulevard or up near Home Depot at an Airbnb there? So they all come down there. They all park there. They all hang out all night long. They have parties. They have the fire pit. They have a hot tub. They have all that stuff going. In our area, there's a few of them. There's some other neighbors that, don't want to come. They don't want to speak, but they have complained to the town. It's the same thing. The neighborhood is a different neighborhood than it was before. With these people that are coming in, the lady said she had over 250 people. Well, those are 250 people that their neighbors don't know. They don't know who these people are at all, coming in and out all hours of the night. We've had people come in at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, you wake up the next morning, there's a whole group of people there now. We don't know who these people are that are renting this. There's no requirement for the neighbors to know who these people are, what they, I hate to say, could be a pedophile on vacation, could be, all kinds of things. No one knows any of this. Just because you have contact with these people. And again, we've been up here for 2 years straight. And the last meeting that we've had anybody that actually owned Airbnbs was that one little workshop there. There was like 5 people that showed up out of 2 years and then today. So they can't be that big of a concern for these people if they don't show up for 2 years and say yes to it. And again, with the survey, there was 12% out of all those people that said yes, they 100% wanted Airbnbs. The whole rest of it was basically neighborhoods and people that said no. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miranda Murphy.
So this is my first time, so I'm a little nervous. My name is Miranda Murphy. I live at 68 Schnackle. I'm 28. I'm a full-time hairstylist, a newlywed, and I live here in Irondequoit, and I short-term rent the apartment that's attached to my house. I think the benefits of short-term rentals can be overlooked sometimes. We all know how hard it is for younger millennials and Gen Zs to purchase their first home, and short-term renting has allowed me to purchase my first home. It's also allowed me to start a small business that I'm very passionate about, and I hope in the future it allows me to be able to afford to start a family with my husband. Our Airbnb doesn't make us rich, it just helps us make ends meet. In Irondequoit, you have the Holiday Inn Express and the Hampton Inn. and for the visitors to the town, and we have many. Ask yourself if those are the accommodations you want our beautiful town to be associated with. Do we want consumers spending their money to these large hotel chains or to local families pursuing their passion? I think my quaint cottage on the bay is a much better representation of the town than the Holiday Inn on East Ridge. I agree that hosts and owners should be held accountable to their properties. And I think the shortcomings of a few bad hosts or corporations taking advantage of short-term rentals should not punish the hard work of many locals like myself who are just pursuing their passions. The issues our neighbors have with short-term rentals can be easily mitigated with a few regulations I think we can all support, and I have 5 things I can suggest. For one, I think there should be a minimum night stay requirement for short-term rentals to avoid and deter parties. I think we can restrict short-term operators to non-commercial entities to avoid absent corporations managing these properties. Short-term rentals can be required to register with the town with up-to-date owners' contact information. We can instill a sort of nuisance points program so that properties with reoccurring issues can be reprimanded accordingly. And finally, the town can, like the state does, impose its own occupancy tax to short-term rentals to increase tax revenue to the town. And to the members of the board, I thank you for hearing me tonight, and I invite you all to stay with me. We can pick a weekend and allow me to show you how I represent this town and compare it to the other accommodation options that we have. And let me know how you guys want the town to be represented in that hospitality industry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Kick.
Hello, I'm Brian Kick. I live at 68 Schnackle. That was just my wife, Miranda. I'm not going to be as good as she was. But we do have some of the same points, even though we did not reference each other's speeches at all. I've come here to advocate for short-term rentals here tonight. I think that hosts truly want the same thing as their neighbors. We don't want parties, we don't want disturbances to the neighbors or parking disputes. We don't want any of those things. We're kind of on the same page, but we're obviously butting heads because they are things that can happen. Short-term rentals have allowed myself and my wife to buy our dream home on the bay. This is something we take very much pride in. Unfortunately, there is no way we would be able to afford the home. Sorry. We purchased this home with this in mind, and it's been a passion project of ours. A few notes on our home. It is a multi-family, and we stay next door to our short-term listing on the bay. I want to come to the table with some solutions. Why should a host such as myself, who has never turned a blind eye to a party, just to make some money, have to suffer for other host incompetence? Here is what I'd suggest be put in place, and keep in mind that I would 100% be able to come talk with all of you to reach a reasonable resolution that would help to provide host as well as neighbors with favorable outcomes. A list of rules you can implement that I believe would be fair to host and neighbors alike. Host of listing must live within a set radius, as this would prevent out-of-state investors and hosts whose community is not affected by their property. Host must have their own driveway and parking situation. You could limit the amount of guests allowed to stay, say only maximum 5 guests or potentially something like 2 guests per bedroom to prevent large bookings, as some host operates by a heads in beds policy, which can increase party risk by jamming as many beds as possible into a home. Require hosts to have the instant booking setting turned off. This setting would make sure the guest would provide the reason for wanting to stay and can drastically help decrease party risk. Have a nuisance protocol in place that would provide 3 strikes and you're out. For example, if there is a reasonable disturbance reported that the host has not been able to mitigate, it can go as a strike against their property. Again, this is just an example, but something along these lines can make sure the host is very attentive to everything going on at their home. You could require outside cameras so the host can monitor the amount of guests. The town can also require a night limit. For example, if someone's looking to throw a party, they're most likely not going to book for more than one night. So having a 2-night minimum can help discourage that. You could also require a license process that the owner would have to renew bi-yearly. Again, I thank you guys for your time.
Go ahead and take another minute.
Sorry, what was that?
If you have another point, go ahead and take another minute.
I mean, I just basically wrap it up, and I just wanted to reiterate that I'm willing to meet with each and every one of you as someone that understands the short-term rental platforms and the benefits that it can provide to our town. And I'll leave you with this. If you completely do away with short-term rentals, the big corporations will not be affected, but rather men and women of my generation. Sorry.
Appreciate your passion.
Make it easy.
I know, I need to take it easy. I don't know why I let my wife go first. She made me like a little bit emotional, and now it's just like my wedding all over again. Okay. Sorry. Men and women of my generation, just like myself, who are looking to make ends meet and lessen the mortgage and tax payments that come with owning a home in this beautiful town. Thinking about booking a vacation for your family, what would you want to make? What would you think of booking in Arundequoit? Would you want to stay on the bay with wonderful hosts next door like my wife and I, or would you want to stay on East Ridge Road next to Pasta Villa? No hate to Pasta Villa, it's excellent. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you. And does anyone else want to speak on this topic? Please just come to the, I'm sorry, the lady with the white, and then you, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Kristen Haas. I own 640 and 640 Winona. Mine is not an Airbnb. It's just a house, an extra house, but I have friends and family that stay there. I've had neighbors' mother-in-laws stay there, people who've lived in the area before and then have moved to Florida, and I've never had an issue. Some of my neighbors are here. I'm sure that they could say they've never had an issue. But it all goes back to the owner. So why can't we hold them accountable if they're having, it seems like it's an area in Arundequoit that has the complaint. It's not all of Arundequoit. The other thing is the eviction, if you do a long-term rental, so the problem is they're gonna switch it from a short-term to a long-term rental. You get a bad neighbor, you got them for a year now instead of 4 days. I mean, what's the worst scenario here? You don't want a bad neighbor for a year.
You're gonna end up with 130 new neighbors this year.
Yeah, but are they all bad? I mean,
No, but
Excuse
You
me,
need to-
excuse
yeah.
me.
oh, sorry. Sorry.
To the chair. And anyone, sir,
No, that's fine.
if you want to speak, please step up to the lectern.
I mean, that's the only thing. Like, they're not gonna just give up these properties or move back into them. They're gonna be rentals no matter what. So you gotta kind of decide what you wanna do. And I think there are a lot of good Airbnbs in this area. There's a lot of good reasons to have them. So just to do away with them altogether seems a bit ridiculous. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, do you want to speak?
Well, the woman was first.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
I just have a question for the town attorney.
Please state your name and
sorry.
address.
Jan Crum, 150 Montclair Drive. And my question, I can't quote you back to you because I was not that attentive, but you made an offhanded remark about that it's sure to pass, or it will pass soon, or as soon as it goes into effect, something of that nature. And so that made me disappointed and unnerved and confused. Is this just an exercise that we've gone through?
No, ma'am,
and it already,
excuse me,
and it already is decided, or
ma'am,
is this still open?
to answer your question, we've had several, we had a study.
I know that.
Several meetings, several public sessions since January. And with addition to the moratorium, we've been asking for feedback. We did a public survey. So this is kind of the end of the process of months of work.
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember if it had passed or not. So the saying that I couldn't remember if it had passed or not because I've only been here since February, and I know we've talked about this at a couple meetings, and I simply couldn't remember when that discussion was earlier tonight.
And I'll make a correction. This has gone on since January of 2024, so it's been a year-long process.
So tonight, a vote could happen to make it illegal or to make it so, I mean, what's the next thing that needs to happen? Or could it all come to fruition tonight, one way or another?
We have a couple resolutions for tonight, and we'll read those off in a few minutes after our public input.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
My name is Mike Kretovic. I live at 180 Rock Beach Road. One of the things, a few people have come and spoken in favor of short-term rentals today. A significant difference, and it was pointed out in one of the many meetings that we've had on this, that when you have on-site presence, when you have the owner on-site, it's significantly different. Our owners that I live right across from an Airbnb. Our owners, I saw them when they looked at the house. They've been in New Jersey since then. I've called the police, I've called the management company. We've had a lot of issues, not major issues. Nobody's been harmed there that we know of. There have been ambulances there before, but so it's a significant difference. And when we have problems, it's not like working it out with your neighbor because those people are going to be gone in 2 days, in 3 days. I, like many other people, feel like we've been here before, we keep coming back, and we keep talking about it. I truly hope that tonight is going to be different and something is going to be decided. That's all I got.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My name's Jen Suba. I live at 425 Rock Beach Road. It's my family's cottage, and 3 years ago I bought it. I spent a year renovating it, and most of my family lives in Buffalo, so they're not here all the time, but when they come to visit, they stay at the cottage. And since I'm the only one in Rochester, I take care of it. I keep it going. I do the landscaping. I do the weeding. I take care of it better than my own house. I have a house in the city of Rochester. And so to supplement my income, I use Airbnb, and I've been renting Airbnb now for over, 3-4 years. And I think the biggest issue that I keep hearing from a lot of people who are so opposed of Airbnbs are the few people who are irresponsible, who don't take accountability of their actions, are owners that live out of state, that have no care for the house or the property, and all they want is money. That's not the case for a lot of Airbnb hosts. They use it as their secondary income or to pay for the cottage or for whatever it may be. And I don't think, because there's a few people who don't like Airbnbs because they have issues with their neighbor, that everybody that has an Airbnb and does a good job and works their butt off to make it perfect for people and their neighbors. All my neighbors have my phone number. They know to contact me if there's issues. I have Ring doorbells installed. I have a contract that I have each and every single guest that comes and signs, so they are aware of the house rules, what they can and cannot do. I have the names of every single person that shows up. I have their address of where they live. I have their license and their car. I am extremely thorough with vetting the people that come and stay there, and I have had very few issues. And the few times that I have had an issue, I was responsible, I took care of it, and it's a lot of work for me because I have to do that, me, myself, and I. And I feel like I'm getting beat up from here, and I'm getting beat up from here, and I just don't understand, because this is America, and we should be able to do what we want with our property. We shouldn't have to be forced because of a few rotten eggs, but we're ruining it for everybody else. And why can't these people who have issues with these neighbors just talk to your neighbor, old-fashioned, hey neighbor? And if they live out of state, yeah, they shouldn't be owning a house here. That's just wrong. So my point being is that I just think that there are plenty of things. That couple had some really great suggestions. I have a whole list of suggestions as well of how you can mitigate the issues that some of these people are having with their neighbors and Airbnbs. It's just a matter of not letting the people who are doing a bad job ruin it for the rest of us. That's all.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Bukowski. I'm at 405 Rock Beach Road.
If we could just wait a minute, I think that Mr. Evans is.
Sorry about that. Please continue.
When Airbnbs and VRBOs started coming out, it was a great thing because everyone got to take advantage of their home. But in our code, it says there's no boarding, there's no hotels, there's no motels. There's things already written into our code that says you shouldn't be doing this. America, yes, you can do whatever you want, but there are laws. But in this situation, it's great as an owner, but when you live next to one, like the guy said over there, you got 130 new neighbors every day. You got a Tuesday, you're going to work at 6 a.m., and they had a fire that night. So you have to close your windows. It's always a hotel. It's never peace. You bought your home because you were smart enough to see a neighborhood you liked and you wanted to settle, relax, retreat for your own. And instead, you have a community of transients that come in. They take the best parking spots. They take the best everything. This whole beach right thing, it's been going on since I've been a kid. It's so foolish. One of the houses on my street sold with beach rights. There are no beach rights. You can't own this border of our country. It's silly. It's just, we need to have something in place that allows residents to enjoy their homes, not just people who want to invest in our neighborhood and monetize what we have. We took the time to buy into this neighborhood. They're now doing it, monetizing it. In some cases, to be honest with you, let's say they don't ever rent it out to anyone but transients. You have no kids going to our school district anymore because that house that used to rent to people is now to someone that doesn't have kids in our district. There's a lot more to it. When all the houses are Airbnbs, will people want to come to the neighborhood anymore? They won't want to raise their kids here. They won't want to bring their families here. It'll just be to go to the beach a couple weeks out of the year. I'm not for it. At first, I felt like it was a good thing, but as I see it turning into it's neighbors hating neighbors and neighbors aren't around, if you happen to know the neighbor, you can talk to them about it. But if you don't, you have to go on a website, and if within 2 days you don't file a complaint and they don't respond, the complaint disappears. So as homeowners, we have to do something to protect our home. It's an investment for everyone, but we have to make Irondequoit ours, not some guy in Jersey like she said. This is really more about keeping Irondequoit than it is a bunch of people just coming to visit. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I was not prepared to speak. I was just here to listen, but my name is Sarah Eck. My sister and I own...
Please state your address.
Oh, I live at 162 Schnackle. My sister and I also own a home up the street on Seneca together. We were walking in the neighborhood, my dog, and we saw this home that looked abandoned, and then we saw a for sale sign, and we thought, hey, like, we would love it if when we have family, they could come and stay with us. And so initially we bought it, and We have siblings that no longer live in Rochester. We don't have a family home. Our parents are both deceased, and so we bought this home for our siblings to stay in. Our taxes have increased substantially since owning it, and we do VRBO it. The house has been rehabbed nicer than the homes that we live in. I want to just piggyback on what the other owners said, in that we screen everybody, we turn people down, we do not accept you as a renter unless we have your driver's license. We do not allow more people than we have sleeping places. We do not allow you to park on the street. We have a camera on the house. We have quiet after 10 o'clock. Our neighbors on Seneca have our contact information, and we decline more people than stay with us. Our goal really is to just be able to keep the value of our home and have a place for our family and some close friends to stay when they are in town. So I think there's been a lot of great suggestions here, and I'm not going to repeat what the other owners have said, but I'm really like their ideas. I, as a resident on Schnackle, have always said that I would be hopeful that the people that I live next to took as good care of their homes on Schnackle as we take care of our house on Seneca, because that is not the case. And so I guess my thought, whatever happens, I'm going to have to deal with whatever happens. I would like the town to consider putting as much effort into thinking about how people take care of their homes that are owners as they do for people that rent their homes. Because I have had more issues with my neighbors and how they care for their homes living on Schnackle and the way that they treat me as a neighbor and a resident than I do in the house that my sister and I own together on Seneca. So that's just another thought. I understand both sides. I think that nothing should be absolute. I think that, we need rules and regulations for everything, or society in general would just, lose it. So I think that I'm not saying don't regulate us and don't ask what's happening, and we pay taxes like everybody else and are very thoughtful homeowners. I just appreciate your time for listening to everybody. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you.
Sure.
So you rent through VRBO, is that weekly rentals?
We have a 3-day minimum, or 3-night minimum, among other requirements.
So 3 nights?
For 3 nights, yes. And we ask everybody why they're coming into town. We have no more than 10 people on the property, no more than 8 people sleeping on the property.
And you don't have it listed with Airbnb, just VRBO, or?
Just VRBO. Airbnb doesn't allow you, we have tried it, we've turned down people. We listed to see what it was like to work with that site, but we haven't taken Airbnb people, but we wanted to sort of learn about that. So we registered with them, but we take VRBO because you communicate directly. You can ask them to send you a driver's license. This site allows you to put in more rules and expectations. You can see, we just turned down 4 guys that reached out that wanted to stay for 10 days. We would have made $3,500. They were coming to do construction in the area, like traveling construction. And we contacted the last owner of where they stayed, and the owner said, well, they were really polite, but the house was a mess. They left pizza boxes outside, and all the towels were ruined, and And so we said to them, sorry, we're not accepting you. I know that some people do rent as a business. We would like to cover our taxes and maintain the property. We did not cover our taxes last year. But we have, I have 2 siblings that live outside of Rochester, and they have children, and they come in and they stay there during Thanksgiving and, Christmas and holidays and things like that. So, that was originally why we bought the home. But
thank you.
We're covering costs. Thanks.
Last opportunity, anyone else to speak? I'm going to ask our attorney to summarize before we close the public hearing what is going to be considered in the next motion. That's for the people at home. That's for the people in the audience to understand the following procedures.
Thank you. So this resolution is really quite straightforward. It's a resolution to deter, so if you adopt the resolution, you would be amending, it would be passing a local law to amend the zoning code to add a definition for transient rental and to prohibit the short-term rentals under a new section 235-75.1. And so that's what it would be. And I would also just add the draft resolution in my packet has track changes on, so the resolution really for consideration should be the version without the track changes, so with the changes accepted, I should say.
One of the questions that was raised, Mr. Attorney, was the effect on hotels and motels that are already in Arundecoit.
Yeah, so we talked about that at a recent work session. The statute that was mentioned during the public hearing, I believe that's a state statute that's in place to allow for the collection of occupancy tax statewide. And given the potential confusion that could cause for the exception that's in this amendment for hotels, if this is to be adopted, then I've talked to staff and there would be some consideration about amending the definitions in our code to include a definition of hotel. I don't think our code defines hotels or motels. So there would be a tighter definition to make sure that there's a distinction here, not to be confused with the occupancy tax law that was recently passed by the state legislature.
From a legal perspective, should we redefine hotels and motels before passing this resolution?
You could do that, or you could wait and do that as a separate amendment. They'd both be amending the zoning code. So if you wanted to do that and include an amendment here, we'd have to consider whether or not that would be a substantial enough change that could require a new public hearing. So that would be a reason not to do it. If you're inclined to adopt it as is, that would be a reason to do that separately as its own local law.
Should that be proposed if that's the way the board wants to go tonight, or should we just on a separate table this and propose it later?
I guess I'd recommend that you have a discussion amongst the board about which direction you want to go.
Okay. Starting, I think it starts to my right and goes, Mr. Protocol?
So what do we have on the table? If we want to hold this, if we want to continue and talk about?
Right, so right now, there's no motion on the table,
Right.
but, you know, that,
Well, you know, I had a different view when I came in here this evening, a lot different. I'm listening to the folks that are legitimate, take care of their properties and rent to certain individuals. I think if I had an Airbnb, that's the way I would do it. I would be very strict. I would make sure that certain people rent my property, and I would take care of it probably better than the house I live in. I understand that, and it's true that there are people that, there's probably a lot of homes here in Arundecoit, the bad ones are going to ruin it for the good ones. It's just the way it is. And then I feel sorry because I've had some issues in my neighborhood with renters coming in and trashing and just leaving. So I would propose, you know, if we're not gonna just abolish this completely and not have short-term rentals at all, if that's the route, you know, I had a different look on it, but we are gonna really have to bear down on the people that really take advantage of their home and the neighborhoods and ruin it for others, like the legitimate people out here. It's gonna be tough. We're gonna have to really, really bear down on enforcement and really start, and I don't even know legally if you could tell somebody you can't you gotta live in town in order to have an Airbnb here. Or any.
I can't tell you that off the top of my head,
You know
but
what I mean?
there have been some federal cases dealing with that
So,
on a constitutional basis.
You know, I literally have two people living in my neighborhood that attest that they live in their houses and they don't live there.
They don't.
And they've signed an affidavit with the town saying they live in that house. I mean, it's a toothless law.
Yeah.
It's a toothless regulation.
So they could say, I live in town, and so I can have an Airbnb here or whatever, but they don't even live in town.
Mr. Weiner?
I certainly have heard everyone that's speaking here tonight, and tonight I think maybe if I had a straw poll, there's probably more of a preponderance of people. I feel like maybe it's equal, close to equal, but there were 4 of these, and I'm a Airbnb renter myself when I vacation, but the problem to me is, I feel like we need to reinforce our neighborhoods, and I'm not sure that short-term rentals do that. I also feel like the more regulations that we talk about in ways to regulate short-term rentals, the more people find a way of trying to get around it. And, you look at, just like I just anecdotally stated, people can state, like I live in the house, I'm renting it. Some people do, some people don't, or, we've had some people that say, well, I live here for 3 months out of the year, and then there's 9 months of short-term rental. The problems aren't going away in the 9 months, but they'd say, and then I've heard, people that live in the house and rent out a room, which probably is okay. People that are proximal to the house is probably okay, but how close is close enough? Is it in the same neighborhood? Is it half a mile? Is it 5 miles? How do we keep track of people then if they want to move again, that they own a short-term rental? And then now that house maybe perhaps becomes another short-term rental. I just see the problems, I think, are predicated on, just a difficult enforcement circumstance. And for us to invoke the police, the building code officials, and all of these levels of enforcement that are going to be necessary to keep and control this, the problems just are, propagated over and over again. And I understand tourism to a certain extent. I understand family. My brother and his wife come up from Florida and generally stay in an Airbnb. They've looked around. They've stayed in the city. They've stayed in Irondequoit. They've stayed in hotels. But I just don't know if it's doing enough for our neighborhoods right now by having these short-term rentals. I think there's generally a shortage of for-sale homes. I appreciate the point. Someone saying, well, they just turn into long-term rentals, and now you're going to have a person that's a problem there living for it. I understand we can look at the negatives and all this, but perhaps the positives, might outweigh the negatives, that more of these houses are converted to for-sale units. Some of the corporate people decide to get perhaps out of our market and bring in some more for-sale housing stock. I'm hopeful that could occur. But it is difficult for us to enforce. The more regulations, the more codes, rules, ordinances that we put in place, it just leads to more questions, concerns, comments, and enforcement efforts by the town. I just don't think it's self-sustaining at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Malone.
I guess after hearing all the comments tonight, I got a few questions. I've got to kind of chime on Councilman Perdicone's comments that up until tonight, I've got a few in my mind, and again, and to Councilman Warner's code enforcement, I understand that issue, but I feel that after the comments tonight, there's a lot of people that are going to be disenfranchised. So, again, I know you don't want to hear this. I think we should have an executive session, maybe not tonight, but we should talk about this before we make a decision. That's my opinion for tonight. Yep.
Ms. Cunningham?
I think my colleagues know that I have been probably on the fence about this. And it is not a case of 1 or 2 people chirping in my ear. I have tried to listen to both sides, and I understand that there are issues, and I also understand that there are successes, that there are people that do it right, and I have stayed in Airbnbs as well, and I am responsible when I stay in an Airbnb. I have, and Mr. Weiner, I absolutely understand your points too. So I am still struggling with this. I am absolutely struggling with this, and I know that we've been talking about this for as long as I've been on the board, a little over a year. I am concerned that it feels like we're hearing from those that are against this proposal at the last minute. And we have had opportunities. We've had several, Tammy, I understand that. Tammy, please,
Ma'am?
please.
Ma'am,
We have had advertise,
Public hearing though.
but she's not allowed to speak until Ms. Cunningham is finished. At the end, sir, at the end,
we have had opportunities, and so I am concerned that we are hearing from people at the last minute. I am really struggling with this. I'm absolutely struggling with coming to a decision tonight.
Right now?
Yep, I am.
Thank you, Ann.
all right, so what I hear, and Mr. Attorney, you can help and guide me through it before we close the public hearing, is that the board wants to do one more session, 30 days, and then come back and vote, keep the public hearing open.
Do you need to keep the public hearing open? I think,
I think maybe yes.
okay.
I'm not, I don't know that would help us. What I would like to do is, I honestly do not feel that we have had adequate time for us as a board to really discuss this. We have had one workshop where we talked. I honestly, I don't think at this point, we have heard both sides now. But I do want to be able to discuss this a little bit more as a board.
So let me ask you this question. When you close a public hearing, do you typically, if you don't decide that night, would you typically continue to receive written communication?
Or it would be closed.
Yeah, but sometimes you receive written communication after the public hearing is closed.
It will have no effect on the hearing. Because the public hearing means that public comment is still allowed. Once the public hearing is closed, we can receive the written comment, but it will have no effect on the decision-making.
Well, if we're going to be technical about that, we just opened the public input, the public hearing tonight. We did receive emails and phone calls before it was open. So I think
I think many boards continue to receive, if they're going to table it and not make a decision, many boards do continue to receive written communications.
If we close it, then it's just a decision. I would like to keep it open so that we can receive more comments, if possible.
Okay, I think you could receive written communication even with the public hearing closed, but if that's the way you want to do it. My view would be close the public hearing and then move to table it for a period of time so that at least you can have at least one work session to discuss it as a group.
That would be my recommendation, absolutely. And I do want to have, we can make a decision. I know that tonight was when we were supposed to make a decision, but if we can have one more workshop to be able to discuss it, and then in a month.
Yeah, so if you're going to make substantial changes anyways, you'd have to have another public hearing, so,
That's why I want to keep it open.
But you would need to have
Public hearing on the
you would
new
need to have a new
regulation.
public hearing
All right.
with a notice and everything, so
So I'll obtain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll move it.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The hearing is now closed. I'll obtain a motion, and I'm going off the top of my head here, to
we'll
have,
table it for,
to table,
I need to read it first into
Okay.
record.
Madam Clerk?
Public hearing number 3, adopting a local law to amend Chapter 235 of the Town Code regarding short-term rentals.
I make a motion to table this resolution for further discussion for a period of 30 days.
Yeah, no longer than that. I think
30
we
days
can-
is.
Not longer
yes,
than 30
no
days.
more than 30 days, correct.
Or the next town board meeting.
Which-
May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The resolution The motion is passed. Madam Clerk, next item?
Next item is 7:37 PM, public hearing on the matter of granting a special use permit for the approval to construct and operate 8 new poles for small cell antennas with associated equipment in the R1 and R2 residential districts.
May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 The hearing is now open. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this issue? Have another sheet?
I think this one also had some written,
Yes.
so if you want to address
So
that.
while they're getting sheet, can you read the written comments?
I just have the addresses that sent in correspondence, and all the board members have received the correspondence. 282 Bellhurst Drive, 119 Pinecrest Drive, 326 Pinecrest Drive, 124 Wendell Road, 17 Beach Terrace, 115 Summershire Drive, 41 Leland Road, 221 Briarwood Drive.
Thank you. Thank you. The first person signed up to speak, Van Court.
123 Montclair.
Was that an emailed?
What she recited
She
was people that.
she was reading off emails that we had received.
Ms. Van Court?
Is there somebody maybe, I don't know if anybody from the applicant is here tonight,
I'm sorry.
but they might want to speak first.
Thanks very much. Is there any? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brandy Spazano. I am here tonight representing Crown Castle and our request to the town board for consideration for 8 pole placements in Arundequoit that will house small cell antennas. Crown Castle is a company that provides wireless coverage in many different ways. One component of our business that I think some people here are confusing us with is cell towers. We are not looking to propose to install any cellular towers on these people's properties. We are looking to propose to build small cells, which we typically build on existing utility poles. So they are the same height and size of existing wood utility poles and/or metal streetlight poles, between 30 to 40 feet. Small cells work in conjunction with those towers and help bring coverage and capacity relief. This kind of smaller wireless equipment, again, is what we are proposing these pole placements for. When we consider selecting locations, we have to consider our customers' needs first and their locations, their coordinates. Our primary goal is always to use existing infrastructure, as I think the board has already seen, namely utility poles in the public right-of-way. Sometimes, given the search parameters, we're not able to locate on an acceptable utility pole per their standards or their requirements, and therefore our last resort, our last option, is to place poles that we can then put our equipment on. Other times, there are times where there are no existing poles. I think in a couple of these situations, there is that case. There are no existing utility poles, and therefore we would look to set either a street light, a metal pole, or a wood utility pole.
Actually, I do
Thank
have a
you,
question. I'm sorry, I do have a question.
Sure.
So this is for 8 small cell, but none of these are on existing poles?
That is
These are
correct.
all new poles in the right-of-way?
Correct.
Okay, I think that, yeah, that needs, I think that needs clarification, because I was confused by what you said, because you did say that these are placements on already existing poles. These
No,
are
we typically look for that.
Right.
However, that was not the option for these 8 sites. So the proposal is actually just for the poles themselves. It's just obviously our due diligence to explain to you why we're placing them.
Okay.
So are you putting any of these small cells on any existing poles at all? How many, do you know? All throughout the town?
I don't, but
Okay.
several.
Throughout the town?
Yes.
Well,
So
so
several
I'm
of these
confused
eight.
because that's what, I thought that was.
None of these.
Excuse me, can we please do one at a time for questions?
So you are putting these small cells on existing poles around?
Yes.
These 8 are areas that you need, what's the reason you need to put them in these areas specifically? For coverage?
Coverage lacking, and perhaps there's either no existing utility poles, or the existing poles are not in the public right-of-way, or the utility poles, there are standards where we're not allowed to install if there's
Yeah, you can
certain
put them
things.
on there.
Right.
So what's the advantage of these small cells for the folks?
There are several advantages, but obviously it increases bandwidth in the area. Usually it's common if there's like drop calls in a certain area, if they're dense neighborhoods. It increases their coverage. It allows their cell phone to work better, not harder, which actually is a safe benefit for residents that are using their cell phones. It also is excellent for E911 coverage. If you call and you're not sure where you are and you have a small cell that it can ping off of very close to you, it's able to locate your address rather than a tower that's perhaps miles away.
So you don't know for a fact if people in these areas are dropping calls and stuff like that though, right? I mean, you don't really know that.
I will tell you, the planning board did request coverage maps, and we are working on getting them.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that.
That's what I was gonna ask for.
I was at the planning board hearing, or it was a work
Coverage
session.
map?
And we wanted some justification
That is
to
correct.
demonstrate why you need these poles here. And so I'm thinking that what's gonna happen is these, both tonight and at the planning board meeting, that you're gonna ask for an adjournment and we'll extend the shot clock.
We are certainly amenable to that. We have obviously taken all of the comments already received and are here to take them tonight.
Right.
I'm sure there's several. And we will do our due diligence to, work with everyone here, as we have done all over the country.
So how much,
Ms. Cunningham?
I'm sorry, so how many small cells are you placing in Arundequoit?
I don't know. I don't have that. We already have many up and running. Not all placing of small cells require town board approval. It's just
No, I
these
understand
ones.
that. I'm asking a general question.
I am
Because I think people here might want to know that as well.
I am honestly not sure.
So this
I
is,
can certainly
these
tell
are,
you, but
I'm sorry.
I didn't know. Perhaps 56, and I'm only going based off of the title page.
Mr. Weiner?
I think John clarified my question.
Mr. Malone?
I think that one of the questions that was addressed earlier, and we're looking for clarification, is the due diligence done by your company with the utility to see, is there an opportunity to put them, in this case, behind the homes is what we're talking about. I'll be honest with you, not on the street side. So we're looking for clarification that you did your due diligence with our utility company to make sure that that was done before we approve this.
Yeah, we can certainly provide that information. We have an agreement with the utility company, and unfortunately, we're not allowed to install on those easements.
And that was something
We
that-
can certainly, we will provide that to the planning board as
We
well.
talked about that, yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, we have gathered all of this.
Ms. Weisher?
Yep, I just wanted to reiterate, there's a lot of stuff that the planning board asked for.
It did.
And that was included among
Absolutely.
them. It's,
So now I have a question. So you were saying that the utility will not allow them within the current easements
That is
as they're
correct.
currently written, or can those easements be modified to accommodate these?
Not with the utility. We have an agreement with the utility company, and in that wireless agreement, we are not allowed to use any sort of easements. They have to be in the public right-of-way.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We have our company has wireless agreements with each utility company that we deal with in order to go on their pole. Same as like if I were to attach cable TV, that cable TV company has an agreement with that company in order to apply to do that. Part of our agreement with the utility company, my coworker and I read it today, it prohibits the installation of wireless on poles within an easement. Not fiber, we could attach fiber, but not wireless. That's why Green Light can go on them.
But you could go.
We cannot.
But if a pole, what if a pole exists already, where you're not putting your own pole in the easement?
If it's
Could you
in an
use-
easement, we cannot use it, but if it's in the public right-of-way, we
So
can.
that's one of the things that the planning board wanted to know.
Yep.
What was your due diligence to ask the utilities? And so I think whatever that language is, that's going to be very
Oh,
important.
we've got it.
to see.
We're ready, yeah.
Okay.
And then just for the public, easements are different than public right-of-way. Easements are private property, that there's an agreement for the utilities as a public service to use, whereas a right-of-way is public property and it's different. There's also different contracting agreements based on the height of where the facility is on the pole, is that the different companies exchange monies along with the municipality. So I want to clarify all those.
That is
those
absolutely
three
correct.
statements.
Now, Crown Castle has a license agreement already with the town of Arundecoit, correct?
We do.
And so they pay a fee annually for every pole in the right-of-way?
Yes, whatever your code is.
And are you familiar at all, I'm sorry, can you speak at all about the FCC regulations that apply as far as, I know some people have commented about RF radiation, 5G. I also know that, there's FCC rulings about shot clock and what a local government is allowed to consider. I don't know if you could speak to any of that.
Sure. So the FCC does regulate us as a public utility company. We have to abide by all of their guidelines, policies, laws, as well as any town codes in addition to that. We do run RF reports. I assume you have been provided with them, and I'm sorry, I just kind of took this over very recently. So if you have not been provided with them, we can provide them with you. We do independent studies. We pay somebody to study and ensure that this equipment will be safe, that the levels will not, harm anyone on the ground level, anything. That's why we put them up, on the top of the pole or in what we call the communication space. They're not at the ground level, the antennas are not. So that's regulated by the FCC. Some costing, licensing agreement costs are regulated by the FCC. Timeline is regulated by the FCC. We can enter into tolling agreements, assuming both parties agree. It's quite extensive.
One of the comments that I got a lot of was the unsightliness of the facility. Can you speak on what the options are?
Sure. I know for a couple of the metal streetlights, it was commented that I should say metal poles, because I believe they're not. Metal streetlights, the proposal shows just a metal pole. If the town decides that they would prefer to have a streetlight, we do have that option as well. That is something we've installed in numerous other areas. I have seen comments that it's a concern that it would be one streetlight amidst none. Perhaps if it's a cul-de-sac or something like that where there's no above-ground poles, we're certainly willing to put that in a place where maybe it provides safety, security, and lighting coverage that we would then pay for. We own that and we pay for that streetlight. It's nothing on the town. Otherwise, we typically install on wood poles that look similar to other wood poles. So maybe there's a backyard easement here, and we just come out on the right-of-way and install a wood pole that looks similar to them. We try to install equipment that is somewhat camouflaged, same color as the pole.
Thank you, Ms. Archer. Any question? Ms. Protocol.
You talk about safe levels and, dropping calls and all that. The issue here is people don't want to poll next, right? This is completely the last resort. You have to put polls in order to accommodate what you're trying to do.
That is correct.
This is what we're looking at. People here, I don't want a pole in front of my house. You know what I mean? I understand that. Nobody wants a pole. So we have to find, if there's possible, exhaust every other possible option there is out there in order to do that. The light pole, that could be a compromise if someone, wouldn't have an issue with that, but I would like to listen to the neighbors and see if they would. But, that's what we're talking here, the pole,
Absolutely.
the pole itself.
And please know that
I know
we are
where you're going
willing.
to place some poles close to my home. I wouldn't want that pole in my front yard, and that's the issue we have here. So, hopefully that every option is exhausted, and this is the last resort before, we even consider putting a pole anywhere.
No,
you got 8 locations. I'm hoping out of those 8 locations there are alternatives. So, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm certainly sure my colleagues are probably looking at that as well, too.
To be honest, you don't understand how much easier it would be for us
I
as
know.
well.
I
We
understand.
don't, this is not certainly something that we try
I know.
to do.
I understand that, but
I also understand, again, I was
Right.
recently brought onto this. I was in
Sure.
2 meetings earlier today. We are
Right.
planning to do our due
Okay.
diligence. I did hear of one site and apologize, I don't know which one, and I don't know who it was. I don't know if a new pole was planted by Greenlight or somebody, but very, very close to where we're proposing, there's a brand-new wood pole there. So we have every intention of trying to get on that wood pole, I can assure you.
well,
That's
that
way
would be
easier for us.
Yeah. And I
way more cost effective for us, so.
I have confidence in the planning board that they're feeling the same that we are as our neighbors are as well too. Last resort, I feel for a neighbor that if that was gonna happen, you know what I mean? I don't really think anybody wants a pole where they don't want a pole. That's the way I'm looking at it, so.
Excuse me, do you will the wave propagation maps be available for the public, for those that understand the wave propagation coverage, what you're trying to do, or is that just gonna be, or is that, confidential information?
I'm sorry, do you mean like the RF?
Yeah, the RF map,
Yes, do you mean like for our proposals?
yes.
Yes,
That will be available and made public?
yes, is that not something that you currently have?
We don't have that, and that's one of the things that the planning board asked for.
Okay.
Definitely the propagation maps as well. I think there was the RF certificates for a site in East Rochester maybe, which is the same type of facility maybe.
Oh, the
so we saw
configuration?
those.
Okay.
But we definitely want to see the propagation maps and kind of like, we want the engineering reasons explaining why you need the poles, where you need them. Because I understand that, as part of what the planning board was looking for is, to the extent that you have leeway and where you can move it, we want to know where is that leeway and, so that, maybe you put it like on a property line as opposed to right in the middle of somebody's front yard, to the extent you
If
need
that were me, that's what I would propose too.
So that's what we're looking for in the planning board.
Yeah. And just to build off, John's comment, like, I don't think anybody wants, some of the representative example was like a pole with the house, like, right in the middle of the house, right off the street. And then I saw one too, where it's proposed, like, pretty much right in front of a stop sign. It just didn't seem like there was any logic that really, maybe there was logic from the coverage standpoint, but it didn't seem like it was logic from the aesthetic standpoint.
Yeah, the one on Windale is actually right by a stop sign.
I know there was some on one
I
side
think
of the sidewalk
sometimes-
and some on the other side of the sidewalk. I was just like, it just seemed like they were willy-nilly on how they were put in.
Sometimes by the stop sign is maybe more of like a corner and not in front of somebody's house, so more of like a chosen location. I don't know.
Right.
But if you don't want it in front of a house, it would have to move more to like a corner.
I'm sorry, I lost your name in the,
My name?
yeah,
Brandy.
Brandy. Any other questions for Ms. Brandy?
I don't have a question for her, but I do for our town attorney. Could you speak to the process so far, the planning board, and what occurred at planning board, which I watched that meeting, and thank you for all of the things that were brought up at planning board, and what we will be doing tonight. But then also, what our responsibility is, what we can and can't do as far as this application goes, as far as a town board.
All right, so you're jumping the gun a little bit on me. So the planning board had a work session, and the planning board was, they had a laundry list of things that they really want before the hearing, but the problem is all the notices went out, so all these people are here and they're going to want to speak to this, even though they really wanted an adjournment, but they understand that what's going to happen is everybody's going to be allowed to speak to this, and the public hearing for both town board and planning board would be kept open. She mentioned I don't think you called it a shot clock, but I think colloquially that's what we refer to it as.
Correct.
There's a certain time limit where the local, because we're charged by the Telecommunications Act and the various amendments to that act over the years with not doing things that are going to interfere with kind of progress in that arena. And so we are kind of limited in the types of things that the local boards are allowed to consider, because there's some preemption, because the federal statute is going to take precedence over some local regulations. The things that we are generally allowed to do, we can charge fees for the licensing. It's got to be reasonable, and we do that in Irondequoit. The other types of things that we can do, we can manage kind of the aesthetics and the exact placement. We have control over that, and I think we're looking at some. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to the planning board and the planning board site plan review. I think we're looking at whether or not this board actually even needs to render a decision in that, but that's really a discussion for another day.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't. I wasn't trying to jump.
Yep.
But I did want to address the fact that the planning board had asked for a lot of information.
They really did.
Yes.
I mean, every other time I've had, a cell tower application, which this is obviously, it's a small cell, they always present the engineering data, and so that's what we are expecting here. And I know they're gathering it, and so because of that, that's going to, we'll keep the public hearing open, and we also are going to need to agree. I've talked to counsel for Crown Castle about extending or tolling the shot clock, if you will, so that we don't get up against the 11th hour and then it's too bad around it. Quite, we're approved, So I'll work.
We are not looking for that. I will tell you, Crown Castle does all of its due diligence to be good partners. We've worked with the town in several instances with DPW for lots of excavation. We also install fiber here to many businesses. We are not looking to be bad partners.
It's been my experience with all the wireless providers that they are like that. So
we have members of my unit that live in Irondequoit, right next to one of these proposed small cells. So I promise you, we do our due diligence. We care about this community and its safety.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about the process up to this point, and then what, as you had addressed, what we can and can't do as a town board, as a town board, not the planning board.
So this, right before this board is an application for a special use permit. But as I said, that might not be required for the small cell. But what is definitely going to be required is planning board site plan approval, okay? And that is the most important, because that's where, to the extent that the town has power, that's where, it can be exercised, is like location and aesthetics. And so, but this board is going to hear all of your comments, and I would recommend, as I said, keeping the public hearing open. The planning board will keep that public hearing open as well. So.
Okay, any other comments from the board before we move to public comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the first person to speak is Van Court, is that correct? Van Wert, excuse me.
Good evening. I will do my best. I'm usually asleep at this hour, so.
Please state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Deborah Van Wert. I reside at 107 Montclair, 50 feet from the proposed small cell antenna location of 123 Montclair. 2 years ago, the fiber optic necessary to power a small cell antenna was put in place without our knowledge, notification, or response to inquiries regarding this activity. After receiving the hearing notice, I went to the town asking who had approved the dig site. The town and the DPW both told me they knew nothing about it. At the 4 p.m. workshop on the 14th, the DPW rep indicated that no permits were issued. The town confirmed. In addition, they asked that I provide them with photographs of the 8 sites that I had taken. I provided those. Reference has been made to how limited our town is under the current FCC guidelines and Telecommunications Act of 1996. I offer you this. In January 2021, the Environmental Health Trust et al. Sued the FCC over their dangerous and outdated RF safety requirements, and they won. And by the way, one of the plaintiffs is now our Secretary of Health and Human Services. The case was heard by the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. The court issued its decision on August 13th, 2021. The FCC failed to provide a reasoned explanation for maintaining its existing 1996 RF exposure limits. The court directed the FCC to conduct a more thorough investigation of the evidence concerning health and environmental harm associated with RF and the new 5G technology. The FCC did not comply. Despite the challenges we are up against, we can learn from a sampling of small towns that have been facing these same issues. Doylestown, Pennsylvania, successfully challenged Verizon and Crown Castle over the installation of 5G small cells. After a legal battle, Doylestown won a settlement that allowed them to reduce the number of small cell antennas, relocate several, and camouflage some installations, and receive a share of the revenue from the services provided through the small cells. Town of Concord, Massachusetts has implemented a small cell wireless installation policy to regulate placement and aesthetics. Flower Hill, New York, a federal judge ruled that the village of Flower Hill acted within its rights when it denied an application to install 18 small cell antennas. The court found that the Telecommunications Act of 1996 does not guarantee improved capacity and speed, only access to voice and cellular service. In Westbury, New York, the Village Board of Trustees pressed Crown Castle over incomplete cell radiation data, citing potential harm to human health. We submit that the FCC has completed no safety studies on 5G small cell antennas. Therefore, there are no safety guidelines to comply with, putting us all at risk. Unlike the pole tower at the fire department, small cells are different, compact and designed to be installed at lower heights, typically 20 to 30 feet above the ground. The RF exposure is exactly at second-story level, where all of our bedrooms are. The closer you are to the antenna, the greater the risk. It's not ground level.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up, please.
I will. The only other addition to this is, I think at the very least, the town of Arundecoy should pursue every possible remedy to remove these antennas, relocate these antennas away from residents. In New Hampshire, there's a setback of 1,640 feet proposed on a bill to the state.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have Pirelli, no first name.
My name's Phil Pirelli. I live over at 123 Montclair Drive, and my residence is one of the locations that's being directly affected by these 5G pole installations. Provided photographs there as far as we can see where this pole will be put. It's about 13 feet from my fence line, 30 feet from my driveway, and approximately 50 feet or so from my house. Just on the other side of that fence is our hot tub, our kids' swing set, just the general area where we like to hang out with our family and have a little bit of our own family time. And that pole will be completely dominating the aesthetic view of our yard and our home. We have a beautiful tree-lined street on Montclair and Gardam with the only poles running through the backyards. This will be placed out on its own and rue the aesthetic nature of our neighborhood and our home itself. On top of just the aesthetics of it, where we would have to walk outside and see this thing every day, we have spoken to people in the real estate industry, and they have told us that this pole, for how close it's going to be to our property and our home, could reduce our property value from anywhere from 15 to 25%. My wife and I have put a lot of money, blood, sweat, and tears to renovate our house and make it a respectable home that we're proud of to raise our family in. We made the decision to stay in Arundecoy for the long term, and that's being completely turned on its head, and it's like we're being fed to the wolves for, some major company, billion-dollar company to come in and make more profit, looking only at their customers instead of us. These poles are incredibly close to residents' homes, to the schools. Why answers need, or questions, and the answers need to be the questions as far as why so close to people's homes, why in these neighborhoods, why can't they co-locate anywhere else? Are there other 5G poles that they could hop on as well that are already up? I've also looked into as far as permitting, because they've already began construction and a lot of this stuff. 2 years ago, there was a New York State dig sign on my house. When I called the town asking about it, no one had any answers for me or knew what was going on. Fast forward, we now have 2.5 weeks and 3 minutes to speak to air our grievances on this. And it seems that they still don't have any permits, but yet they've begun construction already. And why hasn't the town taken action against them if they've already done this? My wife and I, we've reached out to other representatives at, county, state, and federal level looking for any assistance that we possibly can. I urge that this town should be doing the same and going after every avenue that it's possible to assist us as the residents, the tax-paying people, voting bloc, constituents of these neighborhoods. I understand that it's town property, but, it's us that actually take care of the property, and we should have a major say as far as what goes up there and what's by our houses.
Thank you. Pirelli?
Hello, my name is Emily Pirelli, also 123 Montclair Drive. My husband just spoke. One of the locations that would be directly impacted by this 5G antenna, Crown Castle is proposing right next to our property, 13 feet from my fence, and right next to my backyard where my 3 young children play. We have a petition signed from 16 or 17 of our neighbors that we just got in the last couple of days, most of who are not here tonight to represent our neighborhood, but they do not want this. Like my husband said, our neighborhood is tree-lined, beautiful streets. All of our poles are located in our backyards. We had our power lines in our backyard buried because they were an eyesore, and this pole is going to be an eyesore for our neighborhood, for the school, all the kids walking past this pole every single day. Another concern we have is related to our property value. So with talking to a real estate professional and in their opinion and the letter provided to you in that packet, this antenna can drop our property value from 15 to up to 25%. Like my husband said, we've made the decision to raise our family in Irondequoit, and we've spent time and effort to make our home our forever home. Now, for it to be depreciated drastically by this billion-dollar company that has no regard for the locations of these poles. In addition, I found a survey, which I can provide to you, that of 1,000 home buyers, 94% of them surveyed say that they would pay less for a property near one of these antennas. The survey included small cell antennas as well as towers. 79% also said that they would not consider purchasing a house near one of these small cells or towers. So if this is passed, my question for the board is, are our assessments going to be lowered by 25%? What's going to happen? Are my neighbor's property values going to be lowered by 25% too? Are we going to have to fight that as well as this? Another concern is the health risks to my children. The FCC guidelines are 26 years old, and they're only measured, as Brandy said, at the ground level. They are not measured at the antenna level that is equidistant with my children's bedrooms. My daughter's bedroom is 40 feet from this antenna, or where it will be. There's a multitude of evidence, which I have included some in your packet, that includes neurological effects that affect people near these antennas. I just have a couple more seconds to speak, please. There's dizziness, headaches, memory loss, sleep issues. There is increased cancer risk, 75% for people that are close to the vicinity of these poles. The FCC guidelines are way outdated, and I think Crown Castle and Verizon really need to look at where these poles are and take into the account the safety and the safety of our families and our town. Because they started digging with this 2 years ago, and there was no hearing related to where these poles were going to go prior to that happening. So please consider everything that you can do to keep our families safe.
Thank you.
I know that you can't change the FCC guidelines, but you can at least take into consideration the proximity to residents and schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just because of the lateness of the night, I'm going to ask you to hold off on your demonstrations until everyone speaks. Mrs. Sneeringer?
Hello, my name is John Sneeringer. I live at 107 Montclair Drive. As of last Monday, I understood that there was no permit issued for the underground placement of the fiber optic cables. I'd like to ask the board, if I put up an addition on my house without a permit, would you come in and say, just go apply for a permit and then you can finish doing your addition? Or would you ask me to tear it down, come in, apply for a permit, and then build my addition? If there is no permit, I would like you to ask Crown Castle to go and dig up all their fiber optics, apply for a permit, and then reinstall the fiber optics. Also, the Verizon is supposed to provide a need for these small cell towers. I've talked to over a dozen people in my neighborhood. None of them have ever had a dropped call. One of the engineers I talked to the other day, when I was telling him about this, pulled his phone out and said, I've got 5 bars. We were 30 feet away from where this pole is going to go in. So unless they can prove a need, what you have is a want. People want faster downloads. I don't want to wait 10 minutes to download a movie. I only want to wait 2 minutes. A need is not a want. And the last thing I have to say is, I was very happy to hear Brandy say that the arrays are not placed at ground level for safety concerns. They'll be up in the air 27 feet, which is about the level of my bedroom window. I'm really happy to hear that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gregor? Giogor? Sorry, sir, I knew I butchered your name. Please,
Hello, my name is Jim Georger. I live at 10 Lake Terrace. I didn't bring my sign in. I guess I was supposed to bring it in. I thank my neighbors for all the technical information they provided. I want to talk a little bit about process and address it specifically to Crown Castle, but also to the folks that oversee our external partners. I would think, you knew on the job and coming in, that you're going to want to come into a room where there is a sense of goodwill, support, fair consideration of what's going on, and hopefully a positive outcome. Well, let me tell you how not to make that happen. Number one, have somebody come into your yard on a morning, stick a sign in your yard, get back in their car and drive off. And you're left to wonder, what the heck is this sign about? Is it about a zoning thing? Is it about? And then get minimal information that there'll be towers somewhere on your property. So plant a sign with no explanation and drive away. Don't come to the door. Don't say, Mr. Georger, this is what we're about. Cite a right-of-way, that people have very little knowledge about what right-of-ways there are on our properties. There's a telephone pole in the back of my lot, but, the sign is in the front of my lot. I have no idea where the right-of-way is. And then use tower. And without a picture, you can think of a tower as anything from Babel to, whatever, but provide no details. That's the thing. That's the thing to do. And then avoid, at all costs, 8 conversations with 8 families where you would say, Mr. Georger, this is what we're planning on your property. This is the area where it might be. This is why we can't use the telephone pole in the back of your yard. This is where it might be on your back property line. It might be right in your front yard next to the light pole or whatever. 8 conversations doesn't seem like it's going to take a whole lot of time. But for 2 weeks, nothing. And then burden me with my neighbors coming by going, what's going on? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? I don't know. There's just a meeting about it. Nobody's said anything. Crown Castle surely hasn't said a word to me. So the whole idea of, safety considerations, the whole idea of property values, any talk about compensation,
You know, if these things were aesthetically pleasing, people would go to Walmart or Home Depot and they buy them and they put them up like those 10-foot skeletons around, around the time. So the lack of communications, the fact that I didn't know until tonight that it wasn't going to be something on the utility pole in my backyard, but it might be a tower, a monolith in my front yard, that I didn't even have a clue to that unless I was the one to come and chase down the information and chase down Crown Castle, and the burden on me to find out all the information of what's going on instead of somebody coming forward to us and saying, here's what we propose. So that's how not to create goodwill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David Baker, can you hold your clapping until the end? It's actually town code, no signs, no clapping, etc. So I just want to hold your town code. Thank you. And same to you, ma'am.
All right, my name's David Baker, 108 Biltmore Drive. My neighbors that have gotten up before me have cleared a lot of the issues that I was going to talk about, so I'm not going to reissue them because you've already heard them once. My only concern about the antenna array is, okay, is it a 5G or 6G? Is there anything challenging them from changing that to a 5G to 6G, because the clearances for the UF radiation coming off of those is much higher at a 6G band? And then the other note is, it's really not for phone. It's for data and high speed. It's either increasing your data from 5G to 6G up to 1,000%. I work in the industry. I know, I'm an electrician for 41 years. I know you can't get near this stuff. I work on it on all over the country, around the world. We get up by radio antennas. They turn them off when we get near them to work on them. It's not healthy for you. And as far as far as cell towers go, how close is the one from the firehouse to my house? 1,500 feet. How close am I to the one at the town hall? I'm less than 2 miles. And if you catch the one down by the lake, you're within a 3-mile radius of 4 towers, not counting anything on Ridge Road. And I don't even drive down Lake Road to see what's down over there. There are towers around here providing you with service. All this is another carrier coming in and trying to get a piece of the pie. So on that note, I just think it's just an opportunity for them just to sell high-speed data. It has nothing to do with phone. You can click a phone call, walk around anywhere around the quake. Has anybody here in this room had a dead spot where they couldn't make a call? As far as public safety goes, you have to make a phone call. It has nothing to do with high-speed internet, so the guy can turn around, have wireless, come in their house, and see a movie instantly. So, thank you for your time, but my neighbors have covered a lot of the things I was going to cover, so I don't feel the need to rehash it all over again. Thank you.
John Howard?
My name is John Howard. I live at 221 Briarwood Drive. Thank you for the opportunity. My wife Gail and I bought our home at 221 Briarwood Drive, which is the site of one of these towers, 40-foot towers in our front yard, basically, just the other side of the sidewalk. And there is one pole on the entire Briarwood Street, and that is to run a service line from the poles that feed our houses that are behind our houses. And it runs down a perpendicular street to give them power. Well, this sign is putting a pole on this one pole that exists is on one corner of the access road to the elementary school, Briarwood Drive. And they're going to put this pole in front of my house because my house is adjacent to the Briarwood School Drive and the school is behind my home. So we're adding one more visual obstruction, physical visible obstruction to the traffic that goes off Briarwood into Briarwood Drive access road to the school and back twice a day. Buses, cars, kids, families with them, small kids, high school kids walking this path, to get to their homes from the high school or daycare. This is a highway of people and cars and vehicles. And one more visible obstruction is a concern. I have a personal concern that putting a 40-foot pole in my front yard, which has got to be taller than this other pole I mentioned, is I believe that's like less than 30 feet. You know, it's going to have this tower mounted adjacent to it, I guess, and they're going to run power lines draping it from this one pole. My concern is I live in this beautiful street. My wife and I bought this home 48 years ago as our starter home. We've modified it to the beautiful home we believe it is. And this is going to be not only a devaluation, as I'm hearing other people say and what I had in my letter I sent to you, but I live on a beautiful street. This is not going to make it beautiful. It's an ugly commercial pole. I don't believe it should be there, and I think from what I heard, I think it was Brandy that brought up this radiation. This pole is going to be right in front of the elementary school driveway. Freeway, you know, I've talked to my neighbors who are not here tonight. Some have come, but the ones that are immediately next to this pole, they are not in favor of this pole. They said if there's a petition, we sign it. And just one last comment. From what I learned here already of the people that have spoken, I understand that there's already 40 of these these devices mounted on existing poles in the town. And with this safety concern, now we're talking about the additional 8 poles only. I think that's a concern. I obviously am not in favor of depreciating the value of my property or my neighbors or putting something that's going to be an eyesore basically in my front yard.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chris?
I've been actively reworking my notes as my neighbors and townspeople have been covering some of the things I was going to say. As an engineer with some radio experience, not exactly in the cellular.
Sir, your name and address?
Oh, excuse me, 15 Leland Road, right next door to the 7 Leland Road.
And your name, sir?
Christopher Chiesa. Thought I said that. Anyway, I could talk for 10 minutes just on possible alternatives to this thing. I think cellular is on its way out because your phone kicks over and uses Wi-Fi for most of what it does nowadays. And if there was a way to do that and produce less radiation exposure, maybe CCF should run fiber on green lights poles and put a whole separate Wi-Fi transmitter up instead of some pole. You could bolt it in front of somebody's house and you'd never know it was there. Anyway, tons and tons of things like that I can think of just while I'm sitting here waiting to get my chance. My personal concern right now is how are they going to power these things? I haven't heard one word except for John Howard a few moments ago, who is expecting an ugly wire to be hung from his next pole over. I don't see a pole like that anywhere near the one at 7 Briarwood, so the best I've been able to find out or figure out is that somebody's going to trench something. The nearest poles are both on my property, and any path from either of the poles that I know of would go directly through the house of my next door neighbor, and so they're going to have to do something. I'd like to know more about what's planning to happen there, and I would have liked to have known about it 2 years ago because I had an addition put on. They turned my backyard into a wasteland, and I just had it all reseeded last fall. Would have been nice to have been able to plan ahead and coordinate if this is something that we're all going to have to deal with. I'd rather not have to deal with it, of course. Everybody's immediate reaction to it is, ew, heck no, don't want these poles in my yard, in my neighborhood. Our street is one of many around town, many neighborhoods among Arundequoit, where there are no existing poles, towers, street lights in the right-of-way. It's been said to me many times by visitors from out of town that driving down Winona Boulevard, excuse me, to the intersection of Leland Road, which is where this site is going to be, is one of the most beautiful streets they've ever seen. Okay, maybe one pole isn't going to gunk that up too bad, but it puts the foot in the door for many other kinds of things. I half expected to hear somebody say, well, we've already got 40 other poles around town. What's another 8? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Oh, we already got a pole in front of 7 Leland Road. What's another blah, blah, blah. That's a direction I don't want to see my neighborhood going. I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up in the house I'm living in. and I moved back there with my wife a few years ago. We want that to be our forever home. We're not happy about certainly a lot of the things we've heard as consequences of this project. I knew about the RF. I was prepared not to worry about it because you've got the thing up to your head all the time anyway. You're already getting cancer. But, if that thing's going to be beaming radiation straight into the bedroom where I spend 24/7 most of my days, that could be bad. So anyway, thank you for providing a packet of information, but I would like to request that higher resolution versions of the maps and the diagrams and blah, blah, blah be provided. Clearly, they've been photo reduced from something larger. I understand that, but it needs to have been done with a finer grained scan in the first place so that those tiny, tiny printing remains legible. I've got the diagrams, but I'm there with a microscope trying to figure out what they say because, oh yeah, looks good from 2 feet away, but when you try to read it, it can't be done. So please see what you can do to provide us with a little more detail. One last thing, as for the problem of CCF not being able to get onto poles in easements, not that that would help the thing about beaming into the bedrooms, but that isn't really supposed to be our problem. That's CCF's fault for agreeing to an arrangement like that in the first place, and it's not a burden that the residents of Arundecoit should have to pick up and carry for them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Pavia?
Kristen Miles Pavia, 101 Montclair Drive. I want to wish everybody a happy Earth Day and how applicable that is tonight. I'm here in a little different capacity because I've spent most of my career, all of my career, caring for and protecting domestic and captive wild animals. So I have seen animals be born and live a full life and pass away right here in this town or close enough to this town, and several environmental factors that have caused issues over the past. There's no way I could get into all of that. And I don't have all these handouts because animals are kind of the last thing we think about. And by no means I'm speaking just about animals. I mean, I am compassionate for everybody's fight in this matter, and we all should be, because it affects our own life, our own health. But animals, they can't speak for themselves. So I'm here for the trees, the plants, the bees, the domestic animals, the vermin animals, all of the animals. And radio frequencies do crazy things to animals. Our bees are pollinators. All of their migration, all of their frequencies that they share with each other, that's how they breed. Pollination is how plants and gardens thrive. I mean, the FCC has not done any of their homework regarding the ecological effects, the wildlife effects. There have been numerous studies done against the FCC regarding these numerous issues, but the FCC has their hands full, as you can see. And I don't want to say that it's government, but I'm really concerned that the FCC is not going to be able to do all that research that needs to be done, or they're not going to be able to listen to the smaller things, because they're going to be squished too. And nobody's going to have the funding to do these things. So let's just talk about Arundecoit in our beautiful neighborhood that's full of birds, all different species of birds. We have different species of bugs. We have skunks. We have coyotes. We have deer. We have an ecological system. And little by little, we're losing it. And Arundecoit, I did not grow up in Arundecoit, but I've spent my last 30 years in Arundecoit, and it has such charm and such beauty because of the canopy trees, because of the way it's just set up. It's just, don't you want to keep it that way? Why is it worth the risk to the whole town to do away just for a little cellular tower? And I can see it right out my back door, the one that's being located at 123. So I just hope that it gets tabled and we have more time to do more research.
Thank you. Ann Burns?
Good evening. My name is Ann Burns, and I live at 199 Bellhurst Drive. I also wanted to clarify, I didn't hear that our letter had been received by the town. It was? Okay, because I did get an acknowledgement. I just wanted to make sure you all received it. I'm not going to read all my comments because a lot of it, this has been very detailed, very impressive. I just want to speak to, again, how we market our town. And we are all so proud of these beautiful neighborhoods. We have our neighborhood roundtable that meets quarterly, and we work on being good neighbors, increasing the beauty of our town. And realtors tout the beauty of our town. So something like this, these 8 poles right out in the open, really is, it's just extremely unattractive. One of these Star Wars, I call them metal poles, that's what they look like, will be in direct sight of the front of our house. It will also be just 10 houses away from another proposed pole at the corner of Pinecrest and Washington. They're just, the semblance of this is very confusing and troubling. And we ask that the town board push back, think creatively, so that everything can be helpful for the residents. We're also concerned about the possible RF health risks here, the radiation caused by these antennas and the associated equipment. We ask that you, as our elected representatives, push to demand state-level RF safety bills to challenge the FCC directly. As was mentioned by our first speaker, some states are already challenging the FCC more directly, and the FCC limits for the RF radiation haven't been meaningfully updated. We've heard this since 1996. That's an abomination. This is way before 5G, and now we're talking about 5G. And these poles, like people are saying, they're going to be right next to people's homes, right next to their bedrooms. We ask that the town board please act in the best interest of the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Jan Crum?
Jan Crum, 150 Montclair. And I have a question for my neighbor in the charcoal suit who was...
Ma'am, please address the chair.
Okay, my neighbor in the charcoal suit referenced a packet of information that he got that had drawings that were a little too compressed and difficult to see. I don't know where I get one of those and who I speak to in order to have that happen. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Mr. Attorney?
I would assume you can, they're probably available on the website.
It is.
Right, Ms. Nichols?
Find it.
That's correct. Can you hear me?
Yes,
There
now
it
we
is.
can.
That's correct, but those are the compressed files. I would recommend coming in to see me, and then I could make an actual better copy. We just got a new copier, and we're trying to work with it, so I apologize that the files have been so compressed, but I'll do my best to make the best copy for whoever would like one.
Thank you. Rich Rebecca? Krishner? Christian Haas?
Kristen Haas. I live at 640 Winona Boulevard. 7 Leland is on the corner street. It's really close to us where they're proposing this pole. We have no poles on our streets, like everyone has said. I don't see why we need to put a pole there, especially for something that I've never had a drop call in the years that I've lived there. So I'm kind of confused on, one, who this benefits, because I don't think it benefits any of the residents. And then the other things I have are just questions. So Crown Castle is selling all of their small cell tower, like all of them. That line of business, they're selling to a foreign company. So that hasn't been brought up yet. Is anybody, so I'd like some details on that, like who's gonna own these in the future. The other part of it is, they already have towers throughout Arundecoit. There's a bunch on St. Paul. I think there's already 40. The ones we're talking about right now are just 8, but there's more that comes with that bundle. So what is the proximity on these? Like, why do we need so many of them? That's all. That's all I got.
Thank you. Would the representative like to address this immediately?
Sure. About the sale? Can't really answer that. I can, do you want me to address the sale?
The sale, if you're allowed to, and
The proximity?
and proximity.
That would unfortunately be more for our customers, so hopefully our coverage maps and all of that will better outline. I honestly don't know. It's usually a bandwidth issue in very dense neighborhoods. I know that it's scary to hear that it's near a school, but a lot of times the schools need it. That's where the bandwidth is needed the most, especially with online learning. Post-COVID, educational systems have gone a lot to laptops. So it's usually required in neighborhoods where the bandwidth is dense and needed to be stronger. As for the sale of our company, yes, it is in the process. We're not, the sale has gone through, but it's not been approved. There are a lot of regulations and approvals that need to happen at the federal level. It will be a good year before that happens. All of our assets will be maintained. All of our employees will be maintained. We will simply go to a new company name. I'm not sure if it's relevant, but it's happened 3 times
Thank you
to
very
me
much.
personally in this company.
Thanks very much. Peter?
Hi, Peter LaPietra. I live on 94 Harvington Drive. Wanted to retouch. I don't want to rehash everything. Just support some of the information that's already come out. I live in the Maywood neighborhood. I've been there long enough to hear the stories about this was a planned community, and there's a point at which people would sue each other over the color of the of the door they painted it, and there's no such thing, in my opinion, as an aesthetically appropriate street lamp in that neighborhood. There's no poles anywhere on the sidewalks anywhere. That's just the way the community is. And any pole added to that neighborhood, I think, would be a detriment to the neighborhood and against how that neighborhood was designed. I also work for L3 Harris, making radios in the L-band frequencies, which is 5G. You might know it on East Avenue next to the Wegmans. There is a reason why all the antennas are way up high, way up tall. You know, we don't put them 20 feet high, we put them way up tall. I will second the studies on the wildlife with the L-band frequencies and what they can do to small little things when you're resonating at those high frequencies. What else? I'll second the Wi-Fi calling. Is there a need? I mean, we live by the water. Everyone knows, anybody who grew up here, when it comes to telecommunications, you live by the water. You know, you're not putting stuff in the lake, right? You're always going to have some coverage issues by the water. There'll always be some issue. I think that it's fine. You know, personally, I think the need to add these little towers here and there, I don't see it from my professional opinion. And lastly, I know we talked about the FCC regulations and what you can do. I would say, as a taxpayer, we pay some of the highest taxes per thousand in the nation. We pay for lawyers, and you know, a good use of my tax money would be for those lawyers to maybe support us in this case if we wanted to go against the FCC. and support our residents on this matter. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric, or Erica Benz? Eric, okay.
Eric Benz, 49 LeGrand Road. I had a girlfriend. She was a genius, and I had a bachelor's degree in economics. And we spent some time together for a year, and at the end of the year, she came up to me, and she said, "Here, I'm going to put the costs down." And she went on and on and on, and she handed me the list and said, "You put the benefits down." And I just looked at her and said, "Goodbye." I get your point, genius, an economist. You made the best point ever. Kind of relevant here. Devaluation of properties, ugly, unnecessary, and unsafe to humans and wildlife. Goodbye. Oh, benefits. Adios.
Thank you. Anthony Johnson? I'm sorry, Arthur Johnson, excuse me.
I'm Arthur Johnson. I live at 119 Pinecrest Drive. I am here to express my strong opposition to this special use permit. And I also, before I forget it, I want to mention that my neighbors across the street, Tom and Marie Ramsey, could not be here, but they wanted me to mention that they are very much opposed to these towers. And I am especially opposed to a 40-foot wooden tower pole on my lawn. That's what's proposed. Now, while I support efforts to improve wireless infrastructure, I strongly believe that this proposal is unnecessary. It's inappropriate for residential neighborhoods and not in the best interest of our town's residents. There is no need for these towers. I've seen no evidence of need for these towers. And I personally have no problems with my wireless service. And I understand that Spectrum, AT&T, and T-Mobile all provide wireless service in Arundequoit, and they are doing it without the need for industrial structures on private lawns. If they can do it, why can't Verizon? These industrial structures will impact the beauty and the value of property. Homeowners did not purchase property in Arundequoit expecting that a cell tower company would be allowed to put a 40-foot wooden tower pole in their lawn. Residents should not be forced to support commercial infrastructure that provides profits for tower companies, but no direct benefit for the homeowner. And I have a question about compensation for these towers. I would like to know how much fees are being paid to the town for the use of these. And also, is it possible to get got cell tower leases, because I understand that cell tower companies are paying from $700 to $2,000 a month for cell tower leases. I guess my time is up, so that's...
Thank you. Madam Controller, can you answer that question or okay, don't worry if you can. All right. We can look that up and provide the information to you, sir. Alan Kruger?
Alan Krieger, and I live at 50 Mayfair Drive, and just wanted to thank the members and the clerks and the board for being here, and I wanted to thank all of my neighbors for being here as well. I don't think that we need to argue that the opposition is very apparent, that nobody wants this, and for several good reasons. I know right now my voice is not only here to represent my own, but it is for my wife, who is also carrying my child, and the voice for my 17-month-old son, who I know would be standing here next to me if he wasn't already asleep. Whether we want to change the aesthetics or the beauty of a cell phone or a Wi-Fi tower is pretty irrelevant, considering all the artists and engineers that could easily make it more appeasable. What we can't change is how our body reacts to negative and harmful radiation. And the more 5G towers that you allow to go up makes that much harder for me to enjoy that childhood with my son, where he has to ask me what those are and what they do. I remember growing up when I got to grow up on a street with nothing but telephone poles where I could deduce that that's how my phone worked. Now I can't go anywhere without seeing these towers every other mile, and I just would love to see this town and the board do something to make it easier for my son to grow up in a world where he knows that he's being supported and his health is being considered with things like this. And a company like CCF, where it is written in their liability clause that they are not held liable for any short-term or long-term health negative effects that we would have if their towers are put in place. Thank you for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to this issue? Please, sir.
Good evening. My name is Frank Farsace. I live at 17 Beach Terrace. I'm one street away from the proposed 10 Lake Terrace, where they're going to put a pole at the corner by the stop sign. I've listened to everybody tonight, and obviously I agree with everything they said. The problem I have is they've already constructed several poles in my neighborhood, and one of them in particular is right next to the playground, Spezio Park, where the children play every day. So I think the lack of respect for the human people with these cell towers is not there by this company. And I also heard there was no permits that were allowed or done to have these poles put up. So if the board could look into that and double check that. And finally, I don't have much more to say other than I'm in total opposition. I've been in Irondequoit for 30 years. It's a beautiful neighborhood. And why does this big company, Verizon or whoever it is, have to come in and tarnish our neighborhoods? So please, board, I vote against it and I'm opposed, and I hope you all consider that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak on this issue? Please step up.
Hi, Ida Holleran. I live at 133 Pinecrest, right next to Art Johnson. First, I thought, no big deal, it's progress, blah, blah, blah. But everything I've heard tonight, including and most what really resonated with me, is the pending sale of this company. I worked in commercial banking for 30 years for JP Morgan Chase. I know what causes another company to want to buy a company. They have to show signs of growth. How do you do that? Oh, more poles, more density of poles. I had a Verizon account for years and years and years. Their prices got insane, but I never had a service issue. So again, is there a need for this to provide any benefit to anybody? I don't think they're going to get additional. Verizon's not going to get anything more out of it because everybody's already annoyed with them. And we've all switched to green light because it's cool. You know, so the real magic of this situation to me sounds like the economic benefit to this company that's doing this work. Demonstrate growth, sell. And Brandy said they've already been sold 3 times in her career span. And she's a young woman, so, you know, I don't know how many years that represents, but that's a lot of churn of a company. Follow the money. Follow the money. That's all I have to say, because that's what it's all about when it comes to those kinds of things.
Thank you. There was a gentleman waiting over there.
Sir?
Hello, my name is Larry DeMeo. I live at 34 Delta Terrace. I'm not impacted by this current proposal, but I just wanted to register my own complaint that last year in July, there was a pole across the street that was replaced with a new pole, and as soon as the new pole went up, they put one of these antennae on there, and we checked with the utility person. They're from Mastec, M-A-S-T-E-C, Utility Services Company. They put this tower up, and we asked what it was. He said it was a 5G enhancer. And I registered my complaint with the town and never heard back from them. And I never got a notice that these things would be installed. And that's right across the street from my home. So, you know, there are poles with these things already around, and we're one of the beneficiaries of this technology, which I sent information about the toxicity of 5G. Many towns, many cities in the country have been able to eliminate these proposals because of the toxicity. So I just wanted to add my complaint. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this issue? Ma'am, and then you, sir.
My name is Linda Willis, and I live at 98 Harvington Drive. The first thing I want to say is that I didn't even know this was happening, even though there's going to be one placed across the street from me that I happen to have seen in front of Arthur Johnson's house. And I called him up and I said, Arthur, are you getting a new fence? Because that's what I thought was happening. Because many people on my street, I'm learning tonight, actually received postcards in the mail. Some of them received 2, and I didn't receive any. And I wonder how that process works. The second thing is that I ditto everything everybody has said tonight, and we do have so much wildlife on our street. We have herds of deer that come in, and I know I get a call from my neighbor every now and then saying that the deer are having a barbecue on my patio. And but the one thing I want to say seriously is that Brandy said that there was something like 56 poles. How many are absolutely necessary? And how do they know that what they already have installed, regardless of these 8 lastly ones, aren't enough? And with the way technology is changing, I still have a landline. And we've got cell phones, and now we've got all that kind of thing happening. Maybe in the next 3 years, Steve Bezos will put satellites up by the moon, and we can do away with all these poles. But we really need to take this seriously and do more research, and not just allow them to come in and put them up in residential areas. I've got children that are going to be walking past the pole by Arthur's house. They walk to school every day. And I don't know what kind of effect that'll have on them, and it just makes me very sad. I bought my dream house 20 years ago, and yet I find myself spending a lot of time here between the planning board and the town board, trying to keep it the way it was when I bought it. So please take into your hearts everything that has been said here tonight, and know that we don't want to change our neighborhood. And if they're not really necessary, or they'll be obsolete in another 2 years, let's really make a good decision about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Good evening. My name is Robert Weifels. I live at 34 LeGrand Road. And I've heard several people say tonight that the transmission from the antenna would be at the bedroom level. And it seems to me that a radio frequency transmission expands out and would reach the ground level, would not stay at bedroom level. And the other point I wanted to make was to, in considering the health effects of these things, think about 10 years in the future, in particular for the younger people. 10 years from now, the health effects will be more noticeable than they are now in the present. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wants to speak to this issue? Thank you, sir.
Ryan Krause, 111 Bellhurst Drive. I think we've all heard about the risk with radio signals, and we've heard the risk of how ugly these things can be. And I'd like to thank one person of the board for telling us what his opinion is of having it on his lawn. How about the rest of you? Would you have it on your lawn? Would you volunteer to have a 30-foot concrete or fiberglass pole with an antenna on it, even a light, and supporting equipment on the ground? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. So in conclusion, it's time to walk as you talk. Say no.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no other comments. Any other comments from the town board?
No, just thank you, everybody.
That's been a long
Really
night.
appreciate it. I know it's been a long night, but we take everything serious, all your opinions. Thank you very much. And
100%.
like I said,
And
I
we've
have
read
some
your
very
emails. We know Michelle has been great about passing on all of the emails to us.
We have them
and
all.
we have been reading them.
Any other comments from the town board?
Again, maybe just a reminder about the process, that as far as what we are not doing tonight, and that we're keeping the public hearing open.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes, so as we said before, I think you should keep the public hearing open because there's more information that's yet to be provided. But because there's these two resolutions that are on the agenda, I think those should both be tabled because the public hearing's still open.
With that, I have a motion to keep the public hearing open.
Move it.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The public hearing will remain open. We can do these two together, right?
Sure.
So for the attached resolution, may I have a motion to table the resolutions?
I'll move it.
May I have a second?
Second. And that's for both resolutions.
For both
Yep.
resolutions, OP4H4 and OPH5.
And I think I would table them indefinitely until after the public hearing is closed.
Okay, so, you know what, I'm sorry, I forgot. Madam Clerk, can you read, let's start over again.
Oh, yeah.
Madam Clerk, can you read the public hearing?
The resolution regarding State Environmental Quality Review Act compliance regarding a special use permit to operate 8 small cell wireless telecommunications facilities in the R1 and R2 residential districts.
Please read the second one.
adopting a resolution on the matter of granting a special use permit to construct and operate 8 small cell wireless telecommunication facilities in the R1 and R2 residential districts.
May I make a motion to table the resolution, both resolutions?
I'll move it.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The resolutions will be indefinitely tabled, pending more information coming in. Any, okay, ma'am, recognize you.
This is Ann Burns, 199 Bellhurst Drive. Again, I just wanted to clarify because many residents got the pink card that says this is coming to Planning Board Monday. So just to clarify, this being tabled, will this still be heard by Planning Board?
This is a different board. That board will handle it on its own, but I would anticipate that they're going to hear the public hearing because the notices went out, and then keep the public hearing open and, until they get, because they're not going to have the information that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's very important for people to go to the planning board. 100%. Very important.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn our regular town board meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned.